Chapter 622. The name, Flame Emperor, became more and more famous in the competition zone. There were even some people who came to watch the competition because they wanted to see the team composition of Flame Emperor. This also brought a lot of income to the competition zone number 9. At the end of the month, Flame Emperor went to the competition zone number 9 where Chuyu was. Liquidation during this month, the competition zone number 9 that Chuyu was in also had a good harvest. Therefore Chuyu's mood was also very good. Your individual competition results have already been tabulated. Chuyu tabulated the results of the competition. Yun Sheng and Donghuang Ling'er's individual results were as follows. Flame participated in 15 individual competitions, won 8 matches, lost 7 matches, won 7 matches in a row. Emperor participated in 14 individual competitions, won 6 matches, lost 8 matches, won 4 matches in a row. Flame Emperor team participated in 31 duo competitions, won 31 matches, won 31 matches in a row. Converted to individual winning streaks, Flame's winning streak was 22 matches. 5 matches, Emperor's winning streak was 19 matches. 5 matches. This is your individual and team bonus, a total of 55,000 gold coins. It has already been deposited into this anonymous Skywings gold card. You can collect the gold coins from any bank in Skywings City that has Skywings written on it. Chuyu handed the bonus to Yun Sheng and Donghuang Ling'er. At the same time, I also wish to congratulate you and the other team, Twin Dragons, for successfully entering next month's monthly competition. After accumulating the results for a month, Chuyu was pleasantly surprised to find out that Flame Emperor had already successfully obtained 30 matches in a row. Before the monthly competition, there is still a period of time for you to rest and reorganize. I suggest that you all should rest and not participate in the competition during this period of time. As for the specific competition venue and time, I will inform you later. Chuyu had personally witnessed the hard work of Yun Sheng and Donghuang Ling'er. Flame Emperor's fighting style was very special. One person to support and one person to attack. In the entire competition zone, there was no other team like this. As for the other contestants in the duo competition, most of them were proficient in both offense and defense. Only Flame Emperor was the most special. Almost all of the offensive magic with astonishing attack power were completed by Donghuang Ling'er. Because of this, the audience and even Chuyu had an impression that Flame was only a support magician in the Flame Emperor team, while Emperor was the main force. Most of the time, Flame needed the protection of the Emperor. This was exactly what Yun Sheng wanted to achieve. After more than 20 days, most of the people, including Chuyu, had almost forgotten the astonishing instant kill ability that Yin had displayed in the first match. The current Flame had been completely overshadowed by her identity as an elven mage. Alright, I'll rest for a few days. Before the full moon competition, my magic power recovered very quickly. I discovered that after tempering myself in the arena for this period of time, my magic power has increased by quite a bit. Donghuang Ling'er believed that even if she were to encounter Lu Qingqing again, she wouldn't be in such a miserable state like the last time. Donghuang Ling'er felt that her magic cultivation had already broken through from primary Saint Magician to intermediate Saint Magician. Sure enough, actual combat was the best way to improve one's magic. You can use this time to go to the city and buy some necessary medicine and equipment, Chuyu suggested. Flame and Emperor had been continuously participating in the individual and duo competitions. Furthermore, the two of them won more than they lost. Especially in the duo competitions, they practically won all of their matches. Therefore, the amount of prize money that they received was a lot more than the other newcomers. With this amount of money, Yun Sheng and Donghuang Ling'er's food expenses for the next month were settled. They would also be able to keep an additional bonus of close to 40,000 gold coins. After the two of them left, Chuyu impatiently took out the account book and looked at the situation of this month's competition in the Yellow Wings competition zone. Among the 6 groups of contestants that entered the full moon competition zone, 2 of them came from the 9th competition zone. Because of this, Chuyu, the judge of the 9th competition zone, gained quite a bit of face. Other than Yun Sheng, there was also a group called Twin Dragons that stood out. This group entered the Yellow Wings competition zone around the same time as Flame Emperor. However, different from Flame Emperor, Twin Dragons didn't participate in the individual competition. Therefore, in terms of the results of the duo competition, they were slightly better than Flame Emperor. They had already won 35 matches. It was also because of these two groups that the income of the 9th competition zone this month increased by quite a bit. Even the attendance rate had increased by quite a bit. Especially in the previous two matches, Flame Emperor and Twin Dragons, the attendance rate had actually reached over 10%. There was even a situation where a portion of the audience couldn't enter because the seats were full. This was the first time in the history of the 9th competition zone. It's a pity that the right to hold the full moon competition has been snatched away by the 1st competition zone. It must be Kong Fei's doing behind the scenes again. Chuyu was delighted but also somewhat depressed. She had also learned of this news when she was looking at the account book just now. The income of the 9th competition zone had increased greatly. Kong Fei must have also noticed it. There were 6 groups in the full moon competition, and they needed to compete for a total of 3 days. The tickets for these 3 days full moon competition would definitely be very popular. Shortly after, Chuyu had another idea. As long as Flame Emperor and Twin Dragons are there, the 9th competition zone's following matches will be even more popular. Looks like I have to make a trip to the treasure boat. Chuyu thought for a bit, then took the 9th competition zone's account book and left the Skywings arena. When Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger left the Skywings arena, it was still early. Since the two had decided to rest, there wouldn't be any matches scheduled for the next 5 days, all the way until the full moon competition officially began. After Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger walked out of the competition zone, they took off their masks. The two chatted and laughed, looking forward to the full moon competition. Phew, these tens of thousands of gold coins are the most difficult money this lady has ever earned in her life. I want to use this money to eat a big meal. Let's call senior apprentice brother Abandoned and Gu Feng and have a meal at the sea. Dong Huanglinger stroked the thin card. This month had really been stifling for her. She was the princess of the eastern capital. Although she had been living like a caged bird, her basic necessities were definitely not small. This was the first time she had been earning money like this. However, this kind of money made Dong Huanglinger even more delighted. Gu Feng and Abandoned weren't as lucky as Yun Sheng. The competition in the Earthwings competition zone was a lot more intense. The two of them had already started their double match, so they were nowhere to be seen from morning till night. Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger decided to hold their celebration at night. The treasure boat is right in front. Why don't we go in and take a look? After Dong Huanglinger came to Skywing City, she had been immersed in the competition all day long. These few days of rest had allowed her to catch her breath. There were many novel things in Skywing City, but the medicinal herbs that Yun Sheng wanted to buy were still not available. It seemed that the Hidden Night Pavilion's control was much stricter than Yun Sheng had imagined. Just as Yun Sheng was feeling depressed, an imposing loft-like building appeared in front of them. Chapter 623. Dong Huanglinger's eyes lit up and she suggested going in to take a look. Before entering Skywing City, Dong Huanglinger had asked the inn's waiter in private. The treasure boat specialized in selling all kinds of elixirs, weapons, magic potions and artifacts. As long as you have money, you can buy any treasure on the treasure boat, the waiter replied when Dong Huanglinger asked. Every inch of land in Skywing City was worth gold, but this building took up 5 to 6 acres of land. When they got close, they saw the words treasure boat hanging on the loft. The words were majestic and flamboyant, like an angry dragon that would break out of the signboard at any time. In front of the building there was a row of towering ancient trees. The courtyard was deep, and 2 majestic white jade lions were sitting there. Yunxing and Dong Huanglinger had already heard of the name of the treasure boat when they first entered the Skywing City. The treasure boat was the only super existence in Skywing City that could be on par with the Skywings Arena. One of the reasons for its rise was actually closely related to the Skywings Arena. Those experts who rushed into Skywing City and tried to get rich overnight would go to the treasure boat to sell their belongings when they failed in the arena or the casino and went bankrupt. The experts who could come to Skywing City were all magicians, warriors, and even summoners who had been in the continent for many years. These people all had a few artifacts, magic scrolls or precious materials that could save their lives. Buying at a low price and selling at a high price. The treasure boat was a business that made huge profits with little capital. Another characteristic of the treasure boat was that whether it was pawned or sold, they never asked about the origin of the goods. Therefore, some illegal goods that couldn't be sold on the continent, whether it was elixirs, artifacts, or even some rare baby magical beasts, could be pawned and sold by the treasure boat. Some declined experts could only pawn their goods here. As time passed, the wealth and treasures accumulated in the treasure boat were innumerable. There was a saying in the boundless continent that if one wanted to buy ordinary large goods, the everlasting Chamber of Commerce would be the first choice. But if one wanted to buy small items or rare treasures, the treasure boat would be the best choice. Yun Sheng and Dong Huangling had long wanted to take a look at the treasure boat. Unfortunately, their storage rings were confiscated by Elder Helian. Due to their lack of money, the two of them didn't have the chance to take a look at the treasure boat. Now that they had some extra money in their pockets, they wanted to take a look at the treasure boat. Just as the two of them approached, the two white lions that were originally sitting on the ground suddenly jumped up and let out a series of angry roars. The sound was deafening and the people on the street were shocked. Dong Huanglinger was shocked. Only now did she notice that she was stepping on the tails of the two white lions. She originally thought that the two white lions were jade sculptures. After all, these two white lions did not have a single strand of mixed fur on their bodies, and they looked exactly the same. They looked like twins. Yun Xing also took a closer look. The two white lions were actually magical beasts at the peak of the 8th rank. Just these two white lions were priceless. The treasure boat was indeed worthy of its reputation. Hearing the movements of the white lions, a few shop assistants ran out of the House of Treasures. Quickly get a summoner here. The shop assistants had a headache. Without thinking, they knew that someone must have stepped on the two jade lions at the door again. Speaking of this, it was all eldest young master's fault. For no reason, he insisted on finding two magical beasts. He said that the treasure boat was a big business, and only two peak of the 8th rank magical beasts would be impressive enough. Yet, these two white lions had unpredictable temperaments and looked exactly the same as stone sculptures. Many passers-by would accidentally step on the white lions. Previously, there was a family of tourists from another city. One of the children sat on a white lion while playing around and was almost eaten. Ever since then, the treasure boat even specially found a summoner to serve them, spending a lot of money for nothing. But once the summoner went out, the shop assistants were all dumbfounded. The two white lions that were originally irritable and restless actually obediently lay on the ground. Beside the white lions stood two pretty female magicians. One of them was using her hand to touch the white lion's mane. Those two big fellows were very docile, and they even used their tongues to lick the female magician's hand from time to time. You two are. The shop assistants on the treasure boat were very surprised. Looking at that lady, she was clearly not a summoner. No matter how they looked at her, she didn't look like a summoner. Dong Huanglinger blinked her eyes. This is really strange. How did these two white lions suddenly become big white cats? Just now, those two big fellows were still very irritable. Who knew that after Yun Xing went forward to touch them a few times, they would lay down on the ground? It was as if Yun Xing's hand had some special magical power. Yun Xing didn't explain much. Ever since she returned from the Immortal Ju Nation, she also felt that her summoner cultivation had broken through quite a bit. Even without the beast language ring, it was still the same. This was especially obvious when she came into contact with some high-level magical beasts that could understand human language. Yun Xing understood that this might be related to a portion of the 8 Desolation magical beast bloodline in her body slowly awakening. When she was in the Immortal Ju Nation, Hui Yaoyao's arrow had opened the Elf Queen's seal. After the seal was opened, she felt that the Bakra orc's blood in her body seemed to be gradually awakening. I'm sorry. Just now, my friend accidentally stepped on the white jade lion's tail. After comforting the white lion, Yun Xing smiled apologetically. Actually, you can add a magical space near the white lion. This way the white lion and the passers-by will be more at ease. Yun Xing also felt that if two wild and untamed magical beasts were placed on the streets, it would be too ostentatious and threatening. Luckily, she was present today. If it were someone else, the stone lion whose tail was stepped on would probably go into a rage and eat that person. Yun Xing's smile was very dazzling. The shop assistants on the treasure boat, who had seen countless people, only felt that words were spoken in front of them. They stuttered, "Thank you for your reminder. Respected Lord Magicians, are you here to buy or sell things?" Those who came to the treasure boat were none other than these two types of people. What's inside the treasure boat? Yun Xing and Dong Huanglinger walked into the treasure boat. After walking into the treasure boat, Yun Xing discovered that there was another world inside the treasure boat. The whole treasure boat was divided into several sections, just like a palace. Each section was connected by a corridor, leading to different pavilions. Different pavilions had different shop assistants to receive them. These shop assistants weren't ordinary people either. They were all magicians and warriors with extraordinary skills. Yun Xing even saw a few summoners. At the entrance, there was a map which clearly stated the layout of the treasure boat. When Yun Xing saw the map, she vaguely felt that the layout of this treasure boat was somewhat similar to the Heaven's Wings arena. It looked as if they were the work of the same person. It seemed that the treasure boat and the Heaven's Wings arena were indeed inextricably linked. According to the map, the treasure boat had a magic tool building, a scroll building, a medicine building, and a magical beast building. Magical beasts are also sold here? Yun Sheng asked when she saw the magical beast building. Chapter 624. Yes, the treasure boat also sells baby demonic beasts, demonic beast eggs, and demonic beast soul stones. However, demonic beasts that are rank 6 and above are only sold to summoners. That shop assistant replied respectfully. In the continent there were also some people who would buy demonic beasts as their pets. However, according to the rules of the Zhao state, high-rank demonic beasts were only allowed to be sold to summoners of the corresponding rank. After hearing what the shop assistant said, Yun Sheng was a little disappointed. It wasn't good for her identity to be exposed. It seemed that she couldn't go to this demonic beast building. Yun Sheng's magic scepter was filled with top-grade soul stones. She wouldn't be interested in ordinary soul stones. As for the others, she wasn't interested in them either. Then, does the medicine building sell basic herbs? The other reason why Yun Sheng came to the treasure boat was to see if she could use the treasure boat to bypass the hidden night pavilion and buy some herbs to concoct medicine. The medicine building only sells high-rank and above elixirs and magic potions. If you want to buy low-rank and mid-rank elixirs and magic potions, I suggest you buy them from the hidden night pavilion. The shop assistant replied regretfully. The two asked again. The magic scroll building was the same. It only sold high-rank and above magic scrolls. As for high-rank and above magic scrolls, the price was sky-high. Yun Sheng and Dong Huang Linger's little bit of wealth was simply not enough. Perhaps seeing Yun Sheng and Dong Huang Linger's predicament, that shop assistant reminded them very considerately, the two of you can go to the magic tools building to take a look. There are many types of magic tools on the treasure boat, ranging from low-rank to mid-rank and above. Yun Sheng, let's go to the magic tools building to take a look then. Since Dong Huang Linger came to the treasure boat, she wasn't willing to return disappointed. Thus, under the guidance of a shop assistant, the two of them walked towards the magic tools building. Not long after Yun Sheng and Dong Huang Linger entered the treasure boat, Chuyu came to the treasure boat with the account book. There were a few shop assistants who were setting up a magic array for the two white jade lions. Big sister Chuyu, you're here. When those shop assistants saw Chuyu, they hurriedly went forward and greeted her. Looking at the situation, Chuyu seemed to be very familiar with the people on the treasure boat. What's wrong? What kind of joke is eldest young master trying to make now? Chuyu saw this scene and frowned. That's right. We scared another batch of customers this morning. Fortunately, a kind-hearted customer reminded us to set up a magic array beside the white lion. The workers were so busy that their foreheads were covered in sweat as they explained. Eldest young master isn't here, right? Chuyu looked around and didn't see eldest young master's carriage. No, eldest young master hasn't been here for a few days. Steward Chu is currently on the 3rd floor of the magic tool pavilion. If you have any business with him, you can go in directly. Chuyu heaved a sigh of relief and walked straight in. After Yun Sheng and Dong Huang Linger entered the magical artifact pavilion, they were attracted by all kinds of magical artifacts. The magical artifacts on the treasure boats came from all over the continent. Even some of the elementary magic tools had unique designs. However, the price of some Dharma artifacts was not low, ranging from thousands to tens of thousands. Yun Sheng and Dong Huang Linger looked around for a long time, but they still couldn't find a suitable magic artifact. Just when Yun Sheng and Dong Huang Linger were about to give up, Yun Sheng noticed a special stone. It was a strange metal fragment. When Yun Sheng saw the metal fragment, her heart slightly trembled, and an indescribable feeling arose in her heart. Worker, what kind of treasure is this fragment? Yun Sheng believed that anything placed in the treasure boat would definitely not be an ordinary item. Is this fragment the thing that you are interested in? This fragment, I'm really sorry. Actually, I also don't know what this fragment is. It's just that the city lord ordered me to sell it publicly. The worker on the treasure boat was a bit embarrassed. He had stayed in the treasure boat for many years, and he was quite familiar with all kinds of treasures. However, this fragment that was made of unknown material and origin, he couldn't tell what it was. As for why the city lord placed this fragment here, he also didn't dare to ask. He could tell that the two young ladies in front of him had exquisite appearances and extraordinary temperaments. They definitely didn't come from an ordinary family. However, he didn't expect that the two young ladies would be interested in this fragment. Amen? Little Yun Yun, this thing gives me a very familiar feeling. From the Shinnong medical bracelet, the voice of the little water fairy queen floated over. Is it related to the 8 desolate divine artifact? Yun Sheng remained calm and collected as she quietly communicated with the little water fairy queen. The feeling that Yun Sheng had when she saw this fragment was very similar to the feeling that she had when she saw the other 2 8 desolate divine artifacts. I don't dare to be certain. However, even if it isn't the 8 desolate divine artifact, it is definitely an important clue to finding the 8 desolate divine artifact. Its aura is the same as the immortal Holy Grail. The little water fairy queen wasn't very certain. No matter if it was the 8 desolate divine artifact or not, or the clue to finding the 8 desolate divine artifact, she was determined to get this fragment. How much is this fragment? Yun Sheng took a glance at the fragment. She was determined to get this fragment. This fragment is worth 5 million gold coins. The worker didn't expect that Yun Sheng would actually want to buy this fragment. In fact, many of the customers that came to the treasure boat were interested in this fragment of unknown origin. However, when they heard the price that the shopkeeper quoted, their first reaction was that it was a scam. A fragment that was nothing actually cost 5 million gold coins. Hence, this fragment had been placed in an eye-catching position on the treasure boat for so long without being sold. The worker also didn't expect to sell it. He originally thought that Yun Sheng would turn around and leave after hearing the price. Who knew that Yun Sheng would stare at that fragment? If this fragment was really related to the 8 desolate divine artifact, it would be worth it even if it was priced at 5 million gold coins. Furthermore, it wasn't that Yun Sheng couldn't afford 5 million gold coins. It was just a pity that her beast speech ring had been taken away. As long as she could redeem her beast speech ring, she would be able to buy this fragment. Yun Sheng already had the 8 desolate divine artifacts, the summoning demon's hand and the immortal Holy Grail. Any one of these 2 artifacts had a terrifying power that could shock the entire mainland. Although she didn't know the specific use of this fragment, Yun Sheng still didn't want to let go of any clues that could lead to finding a new 8 desolate divine artifact. I want this fragment, Yun Sheng said with certainty. You want it? The worker's face was filled with disbelief. A blush appeared on Yun Sheng's jade-like face. However, due to certain reasons, I am unable to buy it directly at the moment. Please give me 3 months. Within 3 months, I will definitely come and buy this fragment. However, during this period of time, I hope that the treasure boat will not sell this fragment for the time being. The worker was in a difficult position. Being begged by such a beautiful fairy-like girl, even if he had a heart of stone, he wouldn't be able to harden his heart in such a short time. But this customer, the treasure boat, doesn't accept any credit. If you want to keep the item, you must pay at least a 10% deposit. The price of 5 million gold coins was 500,000 gold coins. At present, Yun Sheng only had a little over 50,000 gold coins in total. She had to deduct 10,000 gold coins for living expenses. Chapter 625. Just when both parties were discussing, Chuyu just happened to walk in from outside. Originally, Chuyu didn't pay attention to them. Just when she was about to walk past them, she just happened to hear Yun Sheng's voice. Hearing the voice, Chuyu felt that it was somewhat familiar. Thus she took a look over. If she didn't hear wrongly, she really wanted to hear Yan's voice. However, shouldn't they be resting? Why did they come to the treasure boat? Hearing the voice, Chuyu walked over. She just happened to see Yun Sheng asking about the stone. What happened? Chuyu walked over. When she saw the appearance of the 2, Chuyu was slightly startled. She didn't expect that the 2 female contestants who had such outstanding performances in the competition were actually 2 great beauties. Furthermore, with the appearance of the 2, even Chuyu couldn't help but take a few more glances at them. These 2 young ladies weren't very old, but their auras were extraordinary. If given enough time, they would definitely become outstanding beauties. It was very hard to imagine that there would be a man who wouldn't be moved after seeing such beauties. However, the appearance of the 2 was completely different from their performance in the competition. Chuyu recalled that in the competition a few days ago, Yen Emperor had set a lot of records. They were just like 2 malefic characters. Looking at the appearance of the 2, it was no wonder that Yellow Knight Emissary had crooked thoughts about the 2 of them. Chuyu thought to herself. The 2 of you are Yen and Yen? Chuyu couldn't help but ask. When Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger heard her voice, they both turned around. When they saw Chuyu, the 2 of them felt somewhat awkward. Big sister Chuyu. Since they were recognized, Yun Sheng didn't have anything to hide. Thus, she took the initiative to walk over. Big sister Yu, these 2 female guests took a fancy to this stone and wanted to buy it. However, they didn't have enough money and wanted us to keep it for a few more months. You should also know the rules of the treasure boat. The shop assistant said honestly. These two are my friends. Give me some face and keep it for them. Chuyu took a glance at the stone. As she looked at it, she felt that it was strange. No matter how she looked at it, it was just a very ordinary stone. Big sister, you don't make things difficult for me. You know that this rule was set by the eldest young master. The shop assistant also had a troubled look on his face. If it were any other goods, it wouldn't be a problem. However, this stone, although it didn't have any grade, was worth 5 million. It was much more expensive than the things on the treasure boats. The shop assistant didn't dare to make a decision on his own. Seeing that the waiter didn't buy it and even used the first young master to pressure him, Chuyu's expression turned ugly. The scene suddenly froze. Why are you here? Coincidentally, at this moment, a beautiful woman walked down from upstairs. The beautiful woman was around 30 or 40 years old. Her skin was as white as snow without a trace of age. She had maintained herself very well. Her figure and appearance exuded the unique charm of a mature woman. Her silhouette was very similar to Chuyu's. It was obvious that the two of them were related by blood. Mother, these two are my friends. They took a fancy to that stone, but it's a little inconvenient for them. They wanted to buy it in 6 months, but this shop assistant used the first young master's orders as an excuse and refused to budge. Chuyu glanced at the shop assistant. Oh, you're called Lu Xiong, right? I remember that you accidentally broke a mid-level magic tool last month. I originally didn't intend to tell the first young master about this. Manager Chu's beautiful eyes focused and fell on the shop assistant. The first young master, Tianyi Tua, was domineering. If he encountered a shop assistant who committed a crime, he would scold and beat him or chase him out of the treasure boat. The treasure boat's income was very high. This shop assistant's family relied on him to support them. Hearing Manager Chu's words, the shop assistant's expression immediately changed. Manager Chu, please have mercy. I'm only a shop assistant. Everything will be decided by Manager Chu. When the shop assistant saw the beautiful woman, his tone immediately softened. We still need to talk about the stone in detail. You must be Yan He Huang. I've heard of you. Since you're one of us, let's talk inside. Manager Chu invited the two into the inner VIP room. After Chuyu's introduction, Yun Sheng and Dong Huang Ling knew that this beautiful woman in front of them was her mother. Manager Chu was also the head manager of the treasure boat. Her authority was second only to the owner of the treasure boat. Just now, when she heard the conversation between Chuyu and the shop assistant, Yun Sheng vaguely guessed that the treasure boat might have something to do with the battle arena. Chuyu also briefly introduced Yun Sheng and Dong Huang Ling to Manager Chu. Manager Chu took a few more glances and had a very deep impression of the two's outstanding appearances. Manager Chu's action obviously had the intention of soliciting. Yun Sheng and Dong Huang Ling had already asked around. In Tianyi City, the treasure boat, Hidden Night Pavilion, and Tianyi Battle Arena were all big forces. However, these three forces didn't seem to have any interactions on the surface. It seemed that because the strength of the three was about the same, there was a tripartite balance of power. But looking at it today, the treasure boat and Tianyi Battle Arena were clearly connected. Since that was the case, how could they condone the Hidden Night Pavilion's evil deeds? Yun Sheng secretly speculated. Could it be that the treasure boat had some misgivings about the Hidden Night Pavilion, or that there were some twists and turns between the treasure boat and Tianyi Battle Arena? The VIP room was a place used to entertain the distinguished guests of the treasure boat. It was very secluded, and a maid served fragrant tea. You're Yun Sheng, right? Can you tell me why you bought that stone of unknown origin? Manager Chu was actually very curious as to why Yun Sheng wanted to buy that stone. Steward Chu also knew about that stone. Manager Chu had been on the treasure boat for more than 20 years and was very familiar with all kinds of artifacts. She could tell at a glance whether or not it was a treasure. But to be honest, she also didn't understand the specific value of that stone. The stone was brought back from an unknown battlefield by the Lord of Tianyi City. Manager Chu still remembered the situation very clearly. The Lord of Tianyi City was covered in injuries, and it looked like he had experienced a soul-stirring battle. The outside world had different opinions about the strength of the Lord of Tianyi City, but one thing was certain. His strength was definitely above that of a martial emperor. To be able to injure such a strong person, the other party's strength must be even more terrifying. At that time, the Lord of Tianyi City had only handed the stone to Manager Chu and instructed that it had to be priced at 5 million. As usual, Manager Chu appraised the stone. However, to the astonishment of everyone on the treasure boat, no matter how they tried to identify the stone, they were unable to determine what it was. It was neither a soul stone nor a material for refining artifacts. In the end, Manager Chu really had no choice but to call this stone Mystery Stone, and place it in the most inconspicuous corner of the abandoned pavilion with a price of 5 million gold coins. It was up to him to sell it or not. In any case, Manager Chu didn't expect it to be sold. Thus, this fragment of unknown object was placed in the treasure boat for more than 10 years, and no one asked about it. Yun Xing opened her mouth to buy it today and it was a fixed price. Manager Chu found it very strange. Chapter 626. I think that fragment might be some kind of magical beast soul stone. Yun Xing had a 5-elemental magic soul, so she was much more sensitive to magic power than ordinary magicians. That fragment, which was no different from a stone, looked black on the outside, but Yun Xing could feel that within its ugly appearance, there was a magic power that couldn't be underestimated. This magic power was different from that of ordinary high-level magical beast soul stones. It seemed to be much stronger than that. The Skywing City Lord might also know the magical use of this stone, but due to some reason he couldn't use it, so he placed it in the treasure boat at a high price. Yun Xing wanted to buy this fragment and analyze it carefully. If it was really a magical beast soul stone, she planned to use this fragment as her 5th soul stone after breaking through to become a sky magician. During this period of time in the arena, Yun Xing felt that her strength had improved a lot. Perhaps in less than half a year she would be able to break through to become a sky magician. Magical beast soul stone? Chu Yu and Steward Chu didn't expect that this black stone was actually a soul stone. When Dong Huanglinger heard this, she kept winking at the side. She was anxious for Yun Xing. If this was really a powerful soul stone, wouldn't the treasure boat raise the price after knowing about it? After all, 5 million gold coins was already a sky-high price. Steward Chu muttered to himself for a while, then said something that shocked Yun Xing and Dong Huanglinger. I can help you keep that soul stone, but you have to unconditionally agree to a condition of mine. I haven't thought of this condition at the moment, but at any time in the future as long as I need it, I can raise it. Steward Chu's words shocked Yun Xing and Dong Huanglinger. Mother, what are you doing? Chu Yu frowned. She was a little dissatisfied with her mother's method of using that stone to threaten Yun Xing. Ladies, you don't have to be too formal. Although I am blind, I can see that the two of you are definitely not ordinary people. My request may be a little unreasonable, but it is also because I have no other choice. I can see that you, is getting along very well with the two of you, so I won't hide it from you anymore. Manager Chu also saw the doubt in Yun Xing's eyes, so he went straight to the point and told Yun Xing and Dong Huanglinger about the predicament that Chu Yu and her mother were in. It turned out that the founder of the Skywings Arena and the treasure boat back then was none other than the Lord of Skywing City. But that was several decades ago. Now, the two young masters of Skywing City were in charge of the Skywings Arena and the treasure boat. Skywing City Lord had 2 wives. Both of them had passed away one after another, leaving behind the eldest son, Skywing Tua, and the second son, Skywing Dong. After the 2 young masters came of age, in order to avoid disputes, the first young master Skywing was in charge of the treasure boat, while the second young master was in charge of the Skywing Arena. These 2 young masters had been at odds with each other since they were young. Both of them coveted the position of the city lord of Skywing City. Their private struggles, both open and covert, were endless. The city lord of Skywing City had once announced that the 2 young masters, whoever could manage their respective businesses better, would be able to inherit the position of the city lord of Skywing City in the future. I am a trusted aide of the city lord of Skywing City. I have served him since I was young, so I am very trusted. In fact, when the treasure boat was established, I was also the one who came forward to prepare it. Back then, the city lord entrusted me to help the eldest young master manage the treasure boat, and then sent you to the Skywings Arena. Such an arrangement was also to balance the power of the 2 young masters. When Manager Chu said this, Yun Xing finally understood why the Skywings Arena and the treasure boat had never cooperated. The city lord's intentions are good, but it's a pity that we, mother and daughter, are seen as thorns in the eyes of others. So, I hope that through this cooperation we can leave a way out for you. Manager Chu sighed. In these few years, the old workers of the treasure boat had been either fired or replaced. Manager Chu could feel that the eldest young master was ostracizing her. Seeing that Chu Yu was also not having an easy time in the arena, Manager Chu had an idea. If the situation continued to deteriorate, the mother and daughter pair could only leave Skywing City. Although Manager Chu had only seen Yun Xing and Dong Huanglinger once, she could tell that these 2 women were definitely from aristocratic families. If they could obtain the support of the aristocratic families in the continent, they would have one more person to rely on. She did not ask for anything else, only for Chu Yu to have a way out. Hearing this, Chu Yu's expression changed. Mother, I won't leave. It's just a Kong Fei. Your daughter has already thought of a way to deal with him. Chu Yu simply said her thoughts in front of the two. I want to raise a sum of money to expand the 9th competition zone. Chu Yu's purpose in coming to the treasure boat today was to raise money. Although Manager Chu had talked about the situation in Skywing City, her words were still somewhat ambiguous. Yun Xing thought for a moment and found many suspicious points. Both Manager Chu and her daughter held high positions in the two most important places in Skywing City. Chu Yu also seemed to be very familiar with the affairs of the treasure boat. Why didn't she simply stay on the treasure boat to help out, instead of being bullied by Kong Fei in the Skywings arena? Yun Xing did not ask about these questions. After all, she and the Chu mother and daughter pair had only known each other for a short while, and there was still a process of mutual trust. If not for the fact that she had no other choice, Chu Yu would not have thought of coming to the House of Treasures. Because the right to host the monthly tournament had been taken over by the first competition zone, Chu Yu had no choice but to change her initial strategy. If Chu Yu wanted to stand out from the 9 competition zones and win the first competition zone, the only way was to expand the venue to accommodate more spectators and obtain higher profits. But according to the rules of the Skywings Arena, every competition zone that wanted to be expanded or renovated had to be proposed at the beginning of the year, and then the allocation of funds would be determined according to the income. It was already the middle of the year, and the 9th competition zone's income had only just begun to pick up. Wanting to allocate funds for the arena was clearly not feasible. The only way was for Chu Yu to fork out the money herself, and then deduct a portion of the investment from her future income. Chu Yu was only a new referee, and the dividends she received from the 9th competition zone were very limited. Thus, she thought of getting an advance payment from Steward Chu. How much will it cost to expand the competition zone? Steward Chu asked. Steward Chu was also very clear about her daughter's predicament in the Skywings arena. But she was only a steward of the City Lord's residence after all, and had no right to ask about the second young master's personal interests. Your daughter has calculated that it will cost about 1,600,000 gold coins. Chu Yu calculated an approximate figure. Skywing City was located 10,000 meters in the air, and its geographical environment was extremely unique. It was very difficult for ordinary flying beasts to set foot here, and they could only rely on high-performance airships and some high-tier flying magical beasts. Thus, the cost of transporting materials here was very high, and the cost of hiring craftsmen was also much higher than usual. If it were on the boundless continent, the same expansion would only cost a third of the price at most. When Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger heard this figure, they couldn't help but click their tongues. This was no small sum. Chapter 627. After hearing the number, Manager Chu also frowned. Mother, is there a problem? Chu Yu saw her mother's dilemma. To tell you the truth, Mother doesn't have that much money on hand. As for the money in the treasure boat, the eldest young master has set a rule that if you want to advance more than 100,000 gold coins, you have to go through him first. Manager Chu sighed. Ever since Chu Yu went to the Heaven's Wings arena, the eldest young master began to ostracize her. Manager Chu worked hard on the treasure boat without complaint, but the eldest young master was always on guard against her. Mother only has 600,000 gold coins on hand at most. As for the remaining 1 million gold coins, there is nothing I can do. Manager Chu felt bitter. She had worked hard for the City Lord's mansion all her life, but she ended up being ostracized by the mother and daughter. Chu Yu herself only had about 500,000 gold coins on hand. The remaining 600,000 gold coins couldn't be solved in a short time. When Chu Yu and Manager Chu were discussing this matter, they didn't avoid it. Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger heard it clearly from the side. Then, is there any other way to raise money? Dong Huanglinger was also anxious from the side. She wished that she could suddenly conjure up 1 million gold coins to solve Chu Yu's urgent need. I'm afraid it won't work. The accounts of the treasure boat are all handled by the eldest young master and the eldest young mistress. I don't want any weakness of Mother to fall into the hands of that couple. Chu Yu sneered. Just as they were talking, they heard a series of questions from outside. Steward Chu walked out. After a series of hushed discussions, Steward Chu walked in. This time, there was a mantis blade in her hand. The blade had already been broken into two. Manager Chu was vexed because of Chu Yu's fundraising matter. After returning, she put the blade aside. When Chuyu saw the blade, she asked with concern, "Mother, did something happen?" The people of the tool pavilion made a mess. When they were refining, they broke a high-grade mantis blade. Manager Chu rubbed her forehead, a trace of annoyance appearing on her face. "What? The treasure boat is refining for people?" Yun Sheng, who had been listening to Chu Yu and her mother's conversation, interjected. Chu Yu nodded. "There's a weapon building on the treasure boat and there's a weapon refinement grandmaster. In addition to refining all kinds of weapons and Dharma artifacts, they also provide refining services. On the continent, alchemists and armament masters were the same, both were highly respected existences. However, compared to alchemists, there were even fewer refiners. This was because refining a weapon or a magic tool required a lot more time and energy than refining an alchemist. Therefore, many magicians who were qualified to refine magic tools would choose to become alchemists. As for weapon refinement, it was also divided into two types. One was basic refinement and the other was refinement. Primary refining was the most basic refining of all kinds of weapons. Refining was only for mid-level magic tools and weapons. After a warrior or magician's cultivation increased, they could increase the grade of their magic tools and weapons by adding materials, soul stones and other methods. This was especially true for martial artists. Because they were used to using a weapon, they would use more refining methods to improve their weapon's attributes. However, the difficulty of refining was much more difficult than the initial forging. As long as the ratio of the materials was not right or the heat was not right, it was very likely that the initial forging would be destroyed. Therefore, there were very few weapon or magic tool stores that could provide refining services, and correspondingly, there were even fewer weapon refinement grandmasters. The treasure boat was the largest concentration of treasures in the city, and due to the needs of its daily work, it also employed many weapon refinement grandmasters to help some warriors and magicians improve their weapons and Dharma artifacts. These weapon refinement grandmasters would also refine old magic tools and weapons that had been pawned or mortgaged. For the treasure boat, this was not a small amount of income. Hearing Chu Yu's explanation, Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger also understood. This broken saber belonged to a warrior saint of the Skywings division of the Skywings arena. In a few days he would have an important competition, which would be the monthly competition in the Skywings division. Thus, he had sought out the treasure boat, not hesitating to use the high reward of 300,000 gold coins to have the treasure boat help him refine the purple gold. Purple gold refinement? Yun Sheng's heart skipped a beat when she heard this, and she could not help but glance at the magic scepter in her hand. Yes, it's the purple gold refinement that many weapon refinement grandmasters on the continent have a headache over. Steward Chu knew a lot more about purple gold refinement than Chu Yu, so she simply continued the conversation and explained it. Purple gold was an extremely rare metal on the continent, and just a bit of it was worth a lot. However, it also had a wide range of uses. Aside from being able to refine purple gold coins, it could also be used for refining. Whether it was Dharma artifacts or weapons, they could all be refined with purple gold. If a Dharma artifact was fused with purple gold, its magic sensitivity would be higher and it would also be tougher. As for weapons, once they were fused with purple gold, they could be said to be indestructible. Generally speaking, a mid-level Dharma artifact that was fused with a portion of purple gold would increase its grade by at least one grade. That warrior saint level contestant had also spent a lot of money for this monthly competition. He took out a piece of purple gold that was worth no less than 200,000 gold coins, and together with the cost of refining, he allowed the treasure boat to undergo this round of refinement. 500,000 gold coins per refinement. Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger both secretly swallowed their saliva. As expected of Skywing City, even cabbages could be sold for the price of abalone. In the entire continent, Yun Sheng was probably the only one who would compare purple gold to cabbages. After all, her beast language ring contained a piece of nouveau riche gold that was made entirely out of pure purple gold. Yun Sheng secretly thought that Night Fox had really cheated her earlier. Luckily, she had also used quite a bit of Night Fox's purple gold earlier, so she had barely recovered a bit of the cost price. If Steward Chu and the others knew what was going on in Yun Sheng's mind, they would probably vomit a few mouthfuls of blood. Now that the refinement of this saber has failed, won't the treasure boat have to pay 500,000 gold coins? Dong Huanglinger picked up the mantis saber. There was already a very obvious crack on the saber's body. With a crack, it was equivalent to the entire saber being destroyed. With Dong Huanglinger's eyesight, she could also tell that this saber was a high-grade weapon. If it were placed on the market, its price would not be less than 100,000 gold coins. However, the value of a saber, especially for the owner of the saber, could not be used to refine it. That warrior saint level had used this saber for no less than 20 years. Now that the saber was destroyed, he had to find a new weapon in a hurry, which would definitely affect the later part of the competition. This refinement could be considered a complete failure. It's not just 500,000 gold coins. I'm afraid that he might not even be willing to pay 1 million gold coins. The refinement has failed, the purple gold is gone, and the saber is also greatly damaged. However, the most important thing is that it can't be refined a second time. This saber is destroyed. Steward Chu shook his head. Chapter 628. If the other party found out, it would not be as simple as compensating them with money. Even if that warrior saint found a saber of similar quality, it would definitely affect his performance later on. At this moment, Chu Yu and her daughter were both upset and confused. If this saber can undergo a second refinement, but requires some purple gold, can the treasure boat provide it? Yunxing also stepped forward and touched the saber. Her finger lightly tapped on the saber and the saber trembled slightly. Yunxing infused a portion of the jade marrow technique into the saber. After testing it, Yunxing was sure that the saber was not damaged, just damaged on the surface. As long as enough purple gold was used to repair the cracks on the saber, the grade of the saber would definitely rise to another level. Purple gold is not a difficult matter. The treasure boat still has some left, but what did you say just now? Second refinement? Steward Chu subconsciously replied. When he heard Yunxing's words clearly, he could not help but be shocked. Impossible. Using purple gold for a second refinement is very difficult. In the entire continent, I'm afraid that only a few people can achieve this kind of refinement. Chu Yu listened with a face of disbelief. On the continent, the elves were of course the most skilled in refining weapons. The Immortal Keeper Kingdom's elven master refiners could perform a second refinement. However, the elves were very hostile to humans and would definitely not lend a helping hand. Aside from the elves, Steward Chu knew another person who might be able to perform a second refinement. Mogu. That old man Mogu might have a way, but he only works for the city lord, and the city lord is not in his residence right now. The Skywing city lord and Mogu had some friendship. However, Master Mogu was stubborn. Aside from the people he had set his mind on, no one could move him. In addition, Skywing City was tens of thousands of miles away from Moge's city. Even if they traveled day and night, they might not be able to make it to the monthly competition in the Skywings region. Actually, I have some friendship with Master Mogu. I learned how to refine weapons under him for half a year, and I also lived in the Immortal Keeper Kingdom for 3 years, so... Yunxing deliberately kept him in suspense. So you're saying that you can perform a second refinement? Steward Chu looked as if he had seen a life-saving straw. He did not care about losing his composure and grabbed Yunxing's hand. He looked at Yunxing's clothes and realized that Yunxing's mage robe was really a product of the elves. At first glance, it was a mage robe unique to the elven royal court. Elf mage's robe was something that was hard to find in the continent. Both Yunxing and Donghuang Ling were wearing one each. From this, it could be seen that what Yunxing said was true. Steward Chu's expression was full of longing. The matter of the mantis saber really made Steward Chu anxious to death. Just when she was in despair, Yunxing said that she had a way. This was like someone giving him a pillow when he was about to doze off. It was too timely. I can try. Thanks to Yi Baiming, Yunxing had refined quite a lot of purple gold equipment. Yunxing had tried refining magic scepters, weapons, and armors. In addition, compared to more than 3 years ago, her skills, eyesight, and trillium hand had improved greatly. She had full confidence that she could perform a second refinement. Steward Chu did not hesitate any longer. The time for the warrior sage to come and take the saber was getting closer and closer. Before the matter was exposed, he could only rely on Yunxing. Steward Chu immediately ordered someone to find purple gold and prepare a refining room. It was the largest refining room on the treasure boat. There were several magic arrays inside, and it was not inferior even when compared to the magic tower on the 6th floor of the Royal Magic Academy. As he did not know what other materials Yunxing needed for the second refinement, there were hundreds of refining materials inside. After everything was ready, Yunxing brought the cracked saber into the refining room. Ling, give me your magic scepter. Before entering the refining room, Yunxing winked at Donghuang Ling. In order to make the second refinement more successful, Steward Chu had also spent a lot of money and prepared enough purple gold for Yunxing. Yunxing secretly handed the magic scepter to Donghuang Ling. Only then did she remember that her friends in Group 13 and Linger's magic scepter could also be refined. Previously, she had been suffering from the lack of suitable refining materials. Now that she had a ready-made purple gold, of course she would not waste it. After Yun Xing entered the refining room, Steward Chu and Chu Yu were waiting outside anxiously. Can that child do it? She looks too young. After all, Steward Chu had only known Yun Sheng for less than an hour. Just now, she also had the mentality of giving medicine to a dead horse and giving the saber to her. However, after thinking about it, she felt a little apprehensive. If the second refinement failed and the saber was completely destroyed, what should she do? Mother, don't worry. Yun Sheng is a trustworthy person. She makes people feel at ease. Chu Yu was speechless for a moment. Simply using the word trust to describe Yun Sheng was not enough. Yun Sheng easily made people feel a sense of trust. With her around, everything would be successful. Chu Yu, Steward Chu and Dong Huang Ling were all waiting in the refining room. After more than 2 hours, the door of the refining room opened. Yun Sheng walked out, slightly tired. How is it? Steward Chu took the lead and went forward. Fortunately, I did not disappoint you. Yun Sheng handed the saber to Steward Chu. When he saw the saber, Steward Chu couldn't help but feel a little worried. The saber? Sigh, it still didn't work. This child actually only used the purple gold to repair it once. The second refinement was supposed to fuse the purple gold with the saber, but if he had known this would happen, he would have taken the risk and let the master refiners on the treasure boat do the second refinement. This. Steward Chu was almost speechless. The pattern on the broken saber was still there, and it was even more obvious than before. However, it had been refined a second time by Yun Sheng. The crack had been completely filled up by the melted purple gold liquid. There was an additional purple gold mark on the bronze saber, and it looked a little ugly. Dong Huang Ling and Chu Yu, who were watching from the side, more or less revealed a disappointed expression. As expected, refining weapons was an extremely difficult task. Yun Sheng had only stayed under Mo Gu for half a year, so it was impossible for her to learn such advanced refining skills. Steward Chu, you can pour in a part of your battle chi. This second refinement saber hasn't been sharpened yet. I don't know how to use battle chi, so I can only let you sharpen it. Yun Sheng stole a glance at everyone's reaction and said, when a warrior used a new weapon, they would indeed pour in a part of their battle chi, and it was called sharpening. Steward Chu responded casually and picked up the saber. Just as the saber was in his hand, Steward Chu's eyebrows twitched. Chapter 629. Once an expert made a move, one would know whether or not he was a real expert. This saber did not look much different from before, except that there was an additional purple gold crack. However, Manager Chu remembered that the original weight of this saber was at least 50 kilograms. For a warrior of her size, she would feel that it was a little heavy. But now, the weight of this saber in her hand had been reduced by at least half. There could only be one reason why the weight of the saber could be greatly reduced without changing its shape and size, and that was that a large amount of impurities in the saber had been refined clean. What kind of fire could remove all the impurities in the mantis saber, which was originally a high-grade weapon? Thinking of this, Manager Chu could not help but change her view of this saber. Manager Chu's heart stirred, and she poured a portion of the fighting energy in her body into the saber. As soon as the fighting energy entered, the saber that was originally silent. Buzz, suddenly a loud sound was heard. In everyone's mind a sea of clouds appeared. A soaring six-clawed flood dragon broke through the clouds and appeared out of thin air. The dragon's roar was deafening. Inside and outside the treasure boat, the customers who were buying items, the staff who were greeting the customers, and even the two high-level white jade lions who were originally restrained by the magic array outside the treasure boat could not help but be shocked by the dragon's roar. The two white jade lions were originally valiant and high-spirited, but now they were both crawling on the ground, not daring to move as if they had seen an extremely powerful beast king. Manager Chu held the treasured saber in her hand, and the shock in her heart was even greater. She only felt that when the fighting energy entered the saber seemed to have come alive. From the saber's body, a vigorous fighting energy actually surged into it. Manager Chu's beautiful eyes narrowed, and she looked at the saber again. She saw that the cracks on the saber that were originally filled with cracks, there was actually an additional 5-clawed flood dragon at the place where the purple gold cracks were filled. That flood dragon was vivid and lifelike, and one could not tell that it was an inanimate object at all. After it let out a dragon's roar, the saber's body shone with a purple light. Manager Chu's heart stirred and her wrist trembled slightly. The fighting energy on the saber's body turned into a purple flash. Like a rainbow piercing through the sun, like a meteor from outer space, that purple mountain was swung out. Boom, boom, boom. With a loud rumbling sound, the crafting room was actually destroyed by this saber. Fortunately, Yun Sheng and the others were already prepared. Before the saber light flashed, they tactfully escaped. Too godly. Dong Huanglinger and Chu Yu's eyes were about to fall out of their sockets. Manager Chu's hand was also trembling slightly. She looked at the saber in her hand in amazement. Saint grade, this saber is already a saint grade weapon. Mother, are you sure? Is this saber a sacred weapon? But isn't it only a matter of 4 hours for Yunxing to refine artifacts? Chu Yu found it hard to believe. How was this possible? Some blacksmiths might not even be able to refine a saint grade saber in their entire lives. Yunxing was secretly laughing at the side. She was the one who refined the weapon, so she naturally knew what grade it was. However, Chu Yu was wrong about the time it took to refine this saber. Yunxing did go in for 2 hours, but the time she used to refine this saber was at most 1 hour. The remaining 1 hour was all used to refine Dong Huanglinger's magic scepter. Yes, it's really a sacred weapon. If I didn't guess wrongly, Master Yun, you also added a part of the Flood Dragon's blood into this saber? Manager Chu remembered that there was a bottle of Flood Dragon's blood in the crafting room. Yes, the Flood Dragon's blood is a very good purifying liquid. Because it was refined, I refined some of the excess impurities that were originally fused into the saber's body. Yun Sheng also gained a lot from this crafting session. Her ability to control fire had increased by another level. Manager Chu, what happened? With such a big commotion in the crafting room, quite a number of workers ran in from outside. It's nothing. Find someone to inform Feng Hong that his saber has already been refined. Manager Chu reluctantly put down the saber. The crack that looked very crude earlier had already completely disappeared, turning into a dragon pattern that occupied the saber's body. This made the saber look even more domineering. The result of Yun Sheng's crafting was 100 times better than what Manager Chu had imagined. She originally only hoped that this saber could be restored to its original state. She didn't expect that Yun Sheng would be able to make the saber's grade increase by another level. She was also a warrior. This saber, any warrior who saw it would definitely like it. If not for considering the reputation of the treasure boat, Manager Chu really wanted to keep this saber for her own use. Manager Chu secretly shook his head. I didn't expect that at this age I would still have such thoughts. I'm afraid that I'm going to be laughed at by others. Manager Chu was also a person who separated public and private matters clearly. After thanking Yun Sheng, she let Chu Yu take care of the two of them and ordered people to tidy up the crafting room. Then, she went to the front to greet the visiting martial saint. Big Sister Yu, this time the treasure boat will be able to break even. It's all thanks to Yun Sheng. Dong Huangling secretly took a glance at Yun Sheng. Her magic scepter was still with Yun Sheng. After seeing Yun Sheng's amazing crafting skills, Dong Huangling was very curious. What would her magic scepter look like? Would a dragon or a phoenix fly out from it? However, with Chu Yu present, Yun Sheng didn't directly take out her magic scepter. Break even? Chu Yu couldn't help but find it funny. She thought to herself, these two girls are quite clever. Unfortunately, when it comes to business they don't know anything. Chu Yu sighed. This time the treasure boat is going to suffer a huge loss. How is that possible? Yun Sheng was very surprised. For the sake of Chu Yu and her daughter, she had meticulously crafted that saber. That saber is now a saint grade saber, and looking at its appearance, it's at least mid-level saint grade. The saber has also fused with purple gold and flood dragon blood, two of the most difficult materials to refine. The price of this saber has now increased by at least 10 times. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's worth 5 million gold coins. Chu Yu could imagine how much her mother's heart ached at this moment. 500,000 gold coins to 5 million gold coins, this tenfold increase made Yun Sheng and Dong Huangling dumbfounded. We took 500,000 gold coins and gave away 5 million gold coins. Don't you think it's a loss? Chu Yu smiled and pulled the two of them forward. Then just don't sell it. Dong Huangling was unhappy when she heard that. That won't do. This concerns the treasure boat's reputation. For merchants, reputation is much more important than gold coins. If the money is gone, just earn it back. Chu Yu comforted the two of them. Chu Yu brought Yun Sheng and Dong Huangling to a small sealed room. This was the treasure boat's secret room. Even Channy Dong didn't know of its existence. After Chuyu arrived at the secret room, she quietly opened a small hole in the wall. Through this hole, she could unknowingly see the situation in the treasure boat's VIP room. Steward Chu was receiving the martial saint who had come to take the saber. She only heard a man's carefree laughter. "Steward Chu, thank you so much. This weapon is really a saint-grade weapon. I believe that with this saber I will definitely be able to win." Chapter 630. From the voice, one could tell that it was the martial saint who had requested to refine the weapon. "Martial Saint Feng, there's no need to be so courteous. This is also an unexpected gain. The saber is still yours as long as you remember the benefits of the treasure boat," Steward Chu replied smoothly. "Of course. If Steward Chu has any problems in the future, feel free to ask. If there's anything in the Skywings arena, I will do my best to help. As for the matter of going against the Hidden Night Pavilion that you mentioned earlier, I will definitely do my best." It turned out that Steward Chu was also very wary of the existence of the Hidden Night Pavilion. Chuyu gave Yunxing and Dong Huangling a signal with her eyes, then closed the hole that was used to spy on them. "You heard that, right? From today onwards, this martial saint will definitely remember the benefits of the treasure boat. If he wants to refine weapons in the future, the treasure boat will be the first thing he thinks of. You must know that there are many martial saint experts around him." Chuyu and Steward Chu were indeed mother and daughter. Their thoughts were exactly the same. Yunxing and Dong Huanglinger finally understood. From today's matter, Chuyu and her daughter were definitely not simple people. On the surface, the two of them were just servants of the Skywing City Lord's residence, but the two of them were very scheming and shrewd. It was no wonder that Chuyu had so much confidence and dared to go against the Hidden Night Pavilion and Kong Fei as a mere referee of a branch arena in the Yellow Wings competition zone. Before Feng Hong, there were probably many similar martial saints and even sky-rank magicians who had been roped in by Steward Chu and Chuyu's outstanding social skills. Yunxing also understood that Chuyu had brought her to the secret chamber today and witnessed everything with her own eyes. Aside from expressing her trust, Chuyu was also trying to rope her in. "How's the wear and tear on your weapon? Do you need to adjust it? After all, the monthly competition is in a few days," Chuyu asked softly. Her tone was full of concern. Part of Chuyu's concern was because she was worried about the monthly competition, but there was also some genuine concern in her words. Yunxing smiled. "It's fine. I'll be able to recover tomorrow." Generally, refining consumed a lot of magic power, but refining consumed even more magic power. Fortunately, Yunxing had mastered celestial meditation, and the effect and duration of her meditation were several times longer than that of ordinary magicians. Therefore, for Yunxing, refining did not consume much energy. On the contrary, it was a very good method to increase her ability to control fire and magic. Chiyu thought for a moment. "Yunxing, I have an idea. As long as you agree, perhaps you can buy that stone much earlier." "What method?" Yunxing was now very familiar with Chuyu, so she didn't doubt her words too much. "That's refining. You can make money through refining." Chuyu also thought of this after seeing Yunxing's superb refining skills. Yunxing was a doctor, but because of the Hidden Night Pavilion, she was temporarily unable to use her medical skills. However, refining tools was different. As long as the treasure boat existed, Yunxing would have a place to refine tools. "Sister Yu, are you talking about refining tools like the mantis blade? I don't think this method will work. One mantis blade is fine, but if several appear, it won't make sense." Yunxing's attitude was still very cautious. The appearance of a sacred weapon was a very sensational thing on the continent. Yunxing was well aware of this, so she had informed Manager Chu just now and asked her to announce to the public that the saber was unintentionally refined by a master refiner on the treasure boat. Yunxing's cautious attitude made Chuyu admire her very much. A genius was not terrible, but if it was a low-key genius, then it was different. What's more, Yunxing was only 13 years old. At this age where it was easiest to be arrogant, she could have a simple heart. This was what Chuyu admired most about Yunxing. Chuyu couldn't help but think of Yunxing's previous matches in the arena. Even in the two-person competition, Yunxing was the weaker one. She gave the outsiders the impression that she was a magician proficient in auxiliary magic. Could it be that this was also one of her disguises? Chuyu was curious, but she didn't ask much. After all, that was Yunxing's style. Perhaps all the answers would be known in the monthly competition. "You've misunderstood. I'm not asking you to refine another Saint-tier weapon." Chuyu told Yunxing what she was thinking. Chuyu's idea was to let Yunxing help refurbish some of the weapons and magic tools on the treasure boat. Chu Yu also didn't want Yun Sheng's outstanding refining ability to be exposed. Today's second refining was only known to her mother and the three of them. But if a second sacred weapon was refined, it was hard to guarantee that no one else would find out. In fact, the forces on the treasure boat were intricate and complex. If the eldest young master knew of Yun Sheng's existence, with Yun Sheng's appearance and outstanding strength, who knew what kind of covetous eyes she would attract? Chu Yu didn't want Yun Sheng to follow in her footsteps. That was why she thought of refurbishing. Refurbishing is different from refining. It consumes less energy and won't let the outside world discover your existence. Also, it doesn't consume too much magic power. To you, it's a good thing with little capital. While Chu Yu and Yun Sheng were talking, Manager Chu had already returned. Great Master Yun, it's all thanks to you this time. Manager Chu's face was full of respect. The only person in the entire Skywing City who could make Manager Chu treat her differently was probably the Skywing City Lord. Manager Chu took out a gold card. This is 100,000 gold coins. It's the extra reward from Marshal Saint Feng just now. The treasure boat doesn't accept a single coin. I'll leave it all to you. Manager Chu knew very well that if it wasn't for Yun Sheng's appearance this time, the treasure boat's reputation would definitely be ruined. Yun Sheng thought for a moment and handed the gold card to Chu Yu. Elder sister Yu, I'll leave this money to you. Use it to expand the 9th competition zone. Take it as my investment in the 9th competition zone. I also think that your suggestion just now is feasible. In the future, all the money I earn from the treasure boat will be handed over to you to manage. I don't have any business acumen. With the money in your hands, it will definitely be more useful. With Chu Yu and Manager Chu behind her, Yun Sheng believed that Chu Yu would rise up sooner or later. Dealing with a rising powerhouse, Yun Sheng would definitely make a profit. This. Chu Yu thought for a moment and accepted the gold card. I'll remember this money. I'll definitely give you a surprise. Yun Sheng didn't expect that this investment of hers would also lay the most solid foundation for her future cooperation with Skywing City. After Chu Yu accepted the gold card, she told Manager Chu about her suggestion. After Manager Chu heard it, he agreed with Chu Yu's opinion. He immediately brought Yun Sheng to the storage room of the treasure boat. Shouldn't the magic tools and weapons be kept in the treasure pavilion? Why would they be placed in a place like this? Yun Sheng and Dong Huang Linger were brought to the backyard of the treasure boat. Chapter 631. The treasure boat looked luxurious and extravagant, but the backyard was no different from an ordinary small courtyard. Instead, it looked even more dilapidated. The so-called storage room was a bungalow that was similar to a woodshed. It was hard to imagine that in a place like the treasure boat where treasures were everywhere, there would be such a place. The treasure boat has many years of history. Just the treasure pavilion alone is divided into several rooms. According to the grade and appearance of the items collected, they are divided into elementary, intermediate, high, saint, and even divine grade items. However, there are some items that, due to improper storage, become dilapidated after a long time, and can no longer be sold on the stage. Manager Chu explained. She pushed open the door of one of the bungalows. As soon as she opened the door, she smelled a gust of stuffy air. This room had not been opened for a long time. Yun Sheng looked inside and saw that there were many shelves placed in a disorderly manner in the room. The items on each shelf were very different. Manager Chu brought Yun Sheng to one of the rooms. It was specially used to store all kinds of old magic tools, weapons, armors and so on. Due to the limited number of blacksmiths in the treasure boat, some of the items that looked too dilapidated or too difficult to refine were discarded here. As time passed, the items piled up, and there was no one to deal with them. Every year, Manager Chu would have a headache about how to deal with these dilapidated weapons and magic tools. These are also considered treasures? The treasure boat can't be accepting all kinds of trash, right? Dong Huang Ling frowned. Chu Yu was also a bit embarrassed. Yun Sheng didn't say much. She walked forward and casually picked up a magic scepter. Just like last time, Yun Sheng channeled a portion of her jade marrow technique into the magic scepter. This magic scepter is already useless. There is not a bit of magic element in it and it can't be repaired. Yun Sheng then picked up a necklace that was similar to a storage device. Amen? This necklace is still in good condition. Furthermore, there should be some things in it. If I find a master who can remove the demon seal, I can still get some unexpected wealth. Yun Sheng checked very quickly. In less than 15 minutes, she had already picked out more than a dozen items that were useless and could be repaired. This result made Manager Chu wild with joy. If it was said that Manager Chu still had some doubts about Yun Sheng's ability earlier, after experiencing the sacred weapon, Manager Chu no longer had any doubts. Dong Huanglinger, on the other hand, had a puzzled look on her face. She also touched those worn-out magical artifacts and muttered, "Why is it that everything looks the same to me? Yun Sheng, just what kind of eyes do you have?" Yun Sheng smiled but said nothing. Yun Sheng had obtained Steward Chu's permission to spend 2 hours every day to refurbish all kinds of magical tools and weapons on the treasure boat. In order to avoid being noticed, Steward Chu would put the refurbished magic tools and weapons in the storage ring and send them to Yun Sheng's inn. After the repairs were completed, Steward Chu would send his trusted aide to send it back. As for the reward for the refurbishment, it was calculated according to the value of the refurbished items. For every refurbishment, about 10% of the reward would be provided to Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng also accepted the reward. 10% of the reward wasn't much. These magical tools and weapons in front of her were mostly elementary and middle-grade magical tools and weapons. Yun Sheng estimated that 10% of the reward would at most be a matter of a few hundred gold coins. Fortunately, there were a lot of refurbished magic tools. Moreover, compared to the mantis blade, the difficulty of refurbishing magic tools was a lot easier. In the same 2 hours, the number of magical tools and weapons that Yun Sheng could refurbish could reach at least tens of them. In this way, she would be able to earn a few thousand gold coins in a day. This was a lot more profitable than the competition. However, Yun Sheng didn't plan to use this money. She handed it all to Chuyu. With Steward Chu's intervention, the mystery stone with a suspicious origin was preserved. Steward Chu also extended the time limit. Within a year's time, as long as Yun Sheng was able to raise 5 million gold coins, she could come and buy this stone at any time. After this incident, the relationship between Chuyu and Yun Sheng became even closer. When Yun Sheng and Dong Huangling returned to the inn, Qi and Gufeng had also returned. The moment they entered, Yun Sheng heard Gufeng's laughter. "Ha ha, Yun Shengling, you guys are finally back." Ever since Gu Feng came to the competition, he had been dispirited. After all, he was a light sorcerer. Other than healing, he didn't have any other special skills. Although Gu Feng was a saint sorcerer, all the magic that he knew, other than the profound magic that was used for defense, were all healing magic. Therefore, if he went to the Earthwings competition zone, where there were as many saint sorcerers as dogs, there was simply no possibility of him winning. Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger thought so. The others, including Elder Hellion and the others, also thought so. Previously, when Yun Sheng encouraged Gu Feng, it was also to cheer him up. She didn't expect that this silly fellow would actually wholeheartedly participate in the competition. Yun Sheng and Dong Huangling didn't ask about Gu Feng's results. "Could it be that you won?" Dong Huangling saw Gu Feng's happy expression and asked indifferently. "Hehe, I didn't win. I won 1 round. This is the first time I tied." Gu Feng was a little embarrassed, but at the same time he was also a little proud. "Tied? Could it be that you met a newly promoted saint sorcerer?" Dong Huangling wasn't pouring cold water on Gu Feng, but Gu Feng's true offensive strength was at most similar to that of a magic shooter. Even Dong Huangling was definitely much more powerful than Gu Feng in terms of offensive magic. This time Ling guessed wrong. The person who tied with Gu Feng was an old contestant with decent skills. His strength should be at the intermediate level of a saint sorcerer. Qi finished his competition early today, so he went to watch Gu Feng's competition. That old contestant was very strong and he was also one of the favorites to win. When Gu Feng said that he was going to enter the arena, he was very nervous. As soon as he entered the arena, he activated the light sphere and defended himself the whole time. His opponent actually couldn't find a way to attack him at all. Just like that, this became the longest competition in the history of the Earthwings competition zone. It lasted from the morning to the afternoon, and there were even a few 2-person matches that were changed at the last minute. Could it be that in the end the opponent? Yun Sheng roughly guessed the reason for the tie. The opponent's stamina was insufficient, and he couldn't break through Gu Feng's defense. In the end, the referee could only announce that this match was a tie. Qi's usually expressionless face couldn't help but reveal a smile, and he laughed softly. This kind of result made many spectators in the Earthwings competition zone vomit blood. In the previous matches, Gu Feng was bound to lose every match. Therefore, the odds for his match this time were shockingly high, and many people bet heavily on that old contestant. Who knew that Gu Feng would win in such a strange way? That was why Gu Feng was so happy. Qi's eyebrows relaxed when he smiled, and his originally bamboo-like appearance revealed a different kind of charm. Chapter 632. It was rare for Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger to see abandon like this. They could not help but think to themselves that it was no wonder that abandon was ranked third on the primrose list. His looks could be said to be devastatingly beautiful. Yun Sheng could not help but tease him. Abandon, you should smile more. You look much better when you smile. Abandon's long eyelashes fluttered slightly when he heard that, and he stole a glance at Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng could not help but chuckle when she heard the reason behind Gu Feng's draw. The two dimples by her lips were very vivid, just like two butterflies. If you like it when I smile, I'll smile more in the future, Abandon said softly in his heart. His gaze was so gentle that it could drip water. In fact, he had become much gentler than before after he met Yun Sheng. If it were in the past, he would never have imagined that he would be able to make friends with anyone and talk to them casually. Ling Er and Gu Feng saw Qi's change, but Yun Sheng was the only one who was fooling around with Qi, oblivious to the change. Yun Sheng is so slow-witted, Ling Er and Gu Feng lamented in their hearts. Their eyes met for a brief moment. Their hearts skipped a beat and Ling Er immediately looked away. Gu Feng's eyes dimmed when he saw that. Abandon was not the only one who was slow-witted. When would she understand his feelings for Ling Er? Ha! So you're saying that you didn't use any other spells and only relied on the celestial sphere of light to achieve a draw? Yun Sheng suddenly thought of something after teasing Abandon. Gu Feng, you said that you didn't use any other spells and only used the celestial sphere of light as a defense? If I remember correctly, you could only last 15 minutes with the celestial sphere of light in the past. But now you can last for a day? Yun Sheng noticed something unusual. The celestial sphere of light was an esoteric spell that Gu Feng had learned when he was a magic shooter. Since it was an esoteric spell, it consumed a lot of energy. After all, esoteric spells were even more important than advanced spells among mages. That was in the past. Now, the range and duration of the celestial sphere of light are increasing. Especially after listening to you and participating in the competition, I realize that I'm getting more familiar with the celestial sphere of light, and the energy consumption is decreasing. Gu Feng thought for a moment and lowered his voice. He said mysteriously, I feel like I'm about to break through. Cough. Dong Huangling was currently drinking water. When she heard those words, she immediately spurted out the water that she was drinking. I thought you could only rely on healing to increase your cultivation? How can he break through just by taking a beating? Dong Huangling felt that it was unfair. It was no wonder that Dong Huanglinger felt that it was unfair. She had risked her life in the Yellow Wings competition zone and was almost crippled by Lu Qingqing, that eight-clawed woman. Yet, she had only improved a little. I don't know either. I just feel that the duration and range of my light celestial sphere have increased a lot recently. Especially for today's competition, if it wasn't because the judge couldn't hold himself back and declared that it was a draw, I could at least last another night. Gu Feng was very confident in his magic. Let's wait and see. If you make a breakthrough before Feng Tian and Yi Baiming, the continent's elite camp will vomit blood. Yun Sheng encouraged Gu Feng. To celebrate, let's go out and have a meal. I haven't eaten meat for a month. Dong Huanglinger looked at Yun Sheng with a pitiful expression. Because the members of Group 13 were all prodigals who didn't know how to manage money, after entering the city, Yun Sheng was the one who had the final say on their food and clothing. Now that the monthly bonus was given, they could afford to have a luxurious meal. Let's go to the food pavilion. I heard that we can eat the meat of rank 8 demonic beasts there. Yun Sheng was very generous this time. Her friends cheered and went to the food pavilion. Did you guys get rich? Alright, today is the day of the monthly bonus. Did you guys win a lot of money in the Yellow Wings competition zone? Gu Feng looked at the menu after arriving at the food pavilion. Because they weren't in the same competition zone and Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger were mysterious, Gu Feng and Qi didn't know how they were doing in the competition zone. We didn't win in the competition zone. I found a part-time job to help Treasure Boat refurbish weapons and magic tools. Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger blinked. The two of them tacitly didn't reveal their results. It would be more shocking if they announced that they were the Flame Emperors a year later. Yun Sheng gave a simple explanation of what had happened during the day and also briefly mentioned Chu Yu's identity. Since she's from Treasure Boat, it shouldn't be a big problem. Qi and Gu Feng felt that this was a good idea. How's the situation with the others in the arena? Yun Sheng casually asked. She had been engrossed in the competition and didn't pay attention to the other competition zones. Actually, she was a little curious. How was Night Fox's competition? She wondered how he fared compared to Feng Tian. Everyone is in the Yellow Wings competition zone, but most of them are in different divisions. Qi met a contestant from the mainland's warrior elite camp, and Qi won. Gu Feng didn't forget to ask around during the competition. Because he had saved many people in the mainland's warrior elite camp, he was able to find out the most information. As Yun Sheng had expected, Yi Baiming and Feng Tian's battle results were the best. Both of them had maintained the record of complete victories so far. However, the other record holder was Chen Lian'er. This came as a great surprise to both Yunxing and Dong Huangling. Chen Lian'er is actually so strong? Her strength has indeed improved very quickly during this period of time. She defeated her opponents quickly in the first few rounds. Right now, she's a popular candidate to become the fighting king after Yi Baiming and Feng Tian. Gu Feng had seen Chen Lian'er's matches. Chen Lian'er had even used advanced wind-type magic. It seemed that her strength was at least on par with Qi's. The others didn't know, but Yunxing knew best. Chen Lian'er's abnormality was probably related to the Octaterra artifact on her. However, one thing was for sure. That artifact was definitely incomplete, and Chen Lian'er hadn't made the artifact recognize her as its master. Otherwise, she wouldn't have only displayed her current strength. How did the two of you perform in the Yellow Wings competition zone? Qi asked. Well, we didn't embarrass the mainland's warrior elite camp. Yun Sheng and Dong Huangling chuckled. At about the same time, Chen Lian'er and her mage companions walked out of the Heaven's Wings arena. Chapter 633. Lian, you won again. You must have gotten a lot of bonus this month, right? The accompanying female mage fawned on her. When Chen Lian'er was in the magic elite camp, she was sought after by many male students because of her beauty and strength. At that time, many female students in the camp were very disdainful of her. But ever since she came to the Heaven's Wings arena, she was like a fish in water. She had been winning since the first match. If it weren't for the abnormal genius Feng Tian in this team, Chen Lian'er would have been the leader of this trial team. It's only 100,000 gold coins. It's a pity that I don't have many matches. Otherwise, I could still compete in this monthly tournament. It's only 10 consecutive victories. My goal is to be the fighting king, Chen Lian'er said proudly. With that mysterious bracelet in hand, Chen Lian'er was very confident of winning. The number of participants in the Earth's Wings arena was fewer than the Yellow Wings arena, and the corresponding number of matches was also much fewer. Therefore, 50 consecutive victories seemed to be much less than 100 consecutive victories in the Yellow Wings arena, but in fact, the difficulty was about the same as the Yellow Wings arena. Chen Lian'er firmly believed that as long as she had that strange bracelet in hand, she would definitely be able to achieve better results. But Lian'er, your next opponent is Feng Tian. Aren't you worried? The female mage beside her asked. Chen Lian'er and Feng Tian's matches were in the same arena. The two of them had not crossed paths in the previous rounds. In the newly announced match, Chen Lian'er and Feng Tian would meet. It's just Feng Tian. How powerful can he be? Chen Lian'er was full of confidence. The outside world was rumored to be very powerful, but she did not see how powerful he was. Just then they passed by the treasure boat. When the female mage beside her saw this, she hurriedly flattered, Lian'er, if you continue like this, you will soon break through to become a sky mage. Maybe you will be the first one to break through in the magic elite camp. Why don't we enter the treasure boat and see what soul stones are suitable for your magic scepter? These words struck a chord in Chen Lian'er's heart. She also felt that if there were no accidents, she would definitely break through in a year's time. Chen Lian'er glanced at the treasure boat and was dazzled by the luxurious style of the building. She had long heard of the name of Skywing City's treasure boat. However, she had been busy with the tournament and hadn't had the chance to visit it. She happened to be free today and had also received a bonus. Perhaps she could go and take a look. Chen Lian'er was the former crown princess of Zhou State. Her family background was not bad. Naturally, she had seen countless treasures and artifacts. When she was still the crown princess, Yi Balian had secretly brought her to Zhou State's royal treasury in order to please her. However, even when she arrived at the treasure boat, she couldn't help but feel that her horizons were broadened. The Skywing City was truly one of the poles of the continent. There were many more treasures in the treasure boat than in Zhou State's treasure vault. However, the price of each item was also very high. This was also related to the origin of the treasure boat. There were many experts in Skywing City, and most of these experts had only two choices when they arrived at Skywing City. Otherwise, they would spend all their wealth and buy a house in the area. When these people did not have enough money, they would sell their artifacts and treasures for money. The other group of people would fight in the arena. They would either lose their lives in the arena or lose everything. Naturally, these people's belongings would end up in the hands of the treasure boat. The treasure boat would be bought at a low price and sold at a high price. Naturally, money would roll in. No matter how noble Chen Lian'er's status was, she was only an ordinary sacred magician. All of her belongings had been handed over to Elder Helion. Her performance in the Earth Wings arena was also very ordinary. After a month, her bonus was only 100,000 gold coins. In the treasure boat, she couldn't afford to buy any high-level magical beast soul stones. Chen Lian'er couldn't help feeling a little disappointed. However, she wasn't willing to walk out empty-handed. Thus, she simply suggested that they take a look at the artifact pavilion. It was at this moment that Chen Lian'er noticed an inconspicuous stone on a display table on the treasure boat. When she saw the stone, Chen Lian'er's heart skipped a beat. This was because the appearance of the stone was exactly the same as the missing part of her bracelet. If it weren't for the fact that there were other people beside her, she really would have immediately taken out that stone to see if it was the missing piece of her bracelet. After Chen Lian'er obtained that old bracelet, she noticed that a part of it was missing. It was also because of that her bracelet always worked intermittently. If this stone was really a perfect match for that bracelet, then it would be very difficult for her to find a suitable stone. Who knew what kind of terrifying magic would be unleashed by that repaired bracelet? Chen Lian'er suppressed her excitement and called the shop assistant over. "How much is this stone?" Chen Lian'er inquired. That shop assistant happened to be the one who had received Yun Sheng earlier. When he saw Chen Lian'er, he muttered in his heart, "What's going on today? Why are there so many beautiful guests on the treasure boat?" However, although the lady in front of him was beautiful, she was still a little lacking compared to the two women he had met during the day. The shop assistant looked at the item that Chen Lian'er was pointing at. He couldn't help but grumble inwardly. Why is it this stone again? What's the value of that stupid stone? Why are the two women asking for it? It turned out that after Yun Sheng and manager Chu had agreed, the shop assistant had originally wanted to keep the stone. Who knew that he would coincidentally encounter the failure of Marshal Saint Feng's treasure saber? The shop assistant was so busy that he actually forgot about this matter, not to mention keeping the stone that was worth 5 million. As a matter of fact, while he was not paying attention, another customer had taken a fancy to it. Chen Lian'er's sweet voice just happened to fall into the ears of a young master who was buying things at the side. That young man was about 25 or 26 years old and was dressed in luxurious clothes. Beside him was a bare-chested woman. He looked in the direction of the voice and coincidentally saw Chen Lian'er's appearance. Once he saw that the other party was an outstanding beauty, that young master's eyes lit up. He ignored the hostile gaze of the woman beside him and sized up Chen Lian'er. A lustful light flashed across his eyes. Chen Lian'er was already used to the admiring gazes around her. She even felt a bit of joy towards the admiration of this kind of man. She pretended not to notice and asked her own question. "Lady, the price of this item is 5 million gold coins," the person on the treasure boat replied respectfully. "What? 5 million? Chen Lian'er didn't expect that this unremarkable stone would cost 5 million. This was a sky-high price. Even if she took back the treasures that she had left with Elder Helion, she still wouldn't be able to afford this stone. Chen Lian'er thought to herself. No matter what, she had to get this stone. Chapter 634. 5 million? Isn't that too ridiculous? It's just a piece of rock. I can't see anything special about it. The two girls beside Chen Lian'er also began to chatter. The waiter on the treasure boat could only helplessly wait at the side. There would always be some customers who would make trouble for no reason. With Chen Lian'er's personality, she would definitely get what she set her eyes on. However, she really couldn't take out 5 million gold coins. In fact, it wasn't just Chen Lian'er. Most people on the continent couldn't take it out either. Not everyone was like Yun Sheng, who knew how to earn money and would gamble and loot a burning house for no reason. Chen Lian'er's troubled look made her even more lovely. The young master's eyeballs were about to fall out. He cleared his throat and walked up. "Miss, do you want to buy that rock?" Only then did Chen Lian'er look at the man behind her. He was about 25 or 26 years old and wore an exquisite beast skin warrior's robe. He wasn't handsome, but he wasn't detestable either. However, from the way he looked at people, it was obvious that he wasn't a good person. Chen Lian'er had seen many of such people in the Jade capital. If it was in the past, she would have dismissed them with a few words. After all, in the Jade capital, no one dared to offend the daughter of the Grand Elder residence. However, things were different now. She was currently in Skywing City, where experts were as common as clouds. Those seemingly ordinary people could very well be hidden experts or those extremely wealthy people who had come to Skywing City to pass the time. Who is this young master? Chen Lian'er could only give a perfunctory answer. She lowered her eyes and had a shy expression. Eldest young master. When the waiter on the treasure boat saw the young master, he looked nervous and hurriedly went forward to greet him. You are. Chen Lian'er knew that this person's identity was definitely not simple. I am Skywing's Tua. The Skywing City Lord is my father. This treasure boat is a property under my name. Skywing's Tua was the eldest son of the Skywing City Lord. This person usually liked to flirt with women, especially female martial artists and female magicians. The Skywing City Lord's strength was unfathomable. When his son was born, he received the most elite education. It was only because of this reason that the Skywing brothers were spoiled by their arrogance, which spoiled their young master tempers. The heavenly winged Tua was undisciplined by nature. After cultivating to the level of a martial saint, he felt tired and was unwilling to break through again. After he inherited the treasure boat business from his father, he had always been a hands-off shopkeeper. He threw all the treasure boat business to Steward Chu while he fooled around. He only came to inspect the treasure boat once every few months. Today, he had no choice but to go to the treasure boat because his female companion was pestering him to choose some treasures. Who knew that the moment he entered, he would see the beautiful Chen Lian'er. He wanted to get to know her, but he couldn't be too casual in his own territory. Coincidentally, Chen Lian'er was in trouble, so he took the opportunity to strike up a conversation. Knowing that the treasure boat was his property, Chen Lian'er couldn't help but rejoice. She believed that she had both looks and talent. Now that she was a saint mage, she wouldn't be interested in ordinary men at all. In her entire life, Chen Lian'er had only fallen for two men. One was Yi Baiming, and the other was later Qing Crown Prince Du Guxiu. As for the other men, Chen Lian'er had full confidence that she could coax them until they were dizzy. If she could please this lecher in front of her, she might not even have to spend a single gold coin to get this treasure that she suspected to be a bracelet fragment. I am Chen Lian'er, a student of the continent's magic elite camp. I just happened to be training in Channy City. Chen Lian'er revealed what she thought was her most charming smile. When Channy Tua saw this, half of his bones went limp. So you are a student of the continent's magic elite camp. No wonder your temperament and appearance are outstanding. It's rare that I have fate with you. If you like anything, feel free to open it. Take it as a meeting gift from me to you. When the people on the treasure boat heard this, they had a headache. They hurriedly signaled to the others with their eyes. Their young master was a brainless wastrel. Especially when he saw a beauty, he couldn't control his belt. Because he was pursuing women, he gave out many things. Every year, because of this, the young mistress of the city lord's mansion would come to the treasure boat to make a fuss. That waiter could only secretly instruct someone to find Steward Chu. Steward Chu was an old man of the city lord's mansion and could speak on a daily basis. I don't think that's a good idea. Every item on this treasure boat is priceless. Young Master Channy and I only met by chance. Chen Lian'er said this, but her beautiful eyes had already landed on that stone. On her head. Even Channy Tuo's perverted wolf claws, which impatiently touched her hand, did not avoid it. Channy Tua touched Chen Lian'er's hand and felt that it was very smooth. His heart rippled. Without saying anything, he patted his chest and promised, Lian'er and I hit it off at first sight. If you like anything, just say the word. I will definitely give it to you. Lian'er has a hobby of collecting stones since she was young. I want that stone. Chen Lian'er resisted the urge to retract her hand and pointed at the stone with a smile. Channy Tua looked at the stone with interest. He had operated the treasure boat for many years and had a certain level of eyesight. But this stone did not have any fluctuations of magic or dou qi. It was indeed a very ordinary stone. The price of 5 million seemed to have been set by his father. Only a fool would buy it. But if the great beauty liked to collect this kind of stone, he did not care. It's only a stone. Come, wrap it up for Miss Chen. In order to get a smile from the beauty, Channy Tua did not look at the stone. But young master, you must first tell Manager Chu. The people on the treasure boat did not dare to say it out loud. Channy Tua had randomly sent women's items. The master of Channy City had ordered that in the future, if the young master did so again, he must obtain Manager Chu's permission. Who is the master here? If I tell you to take it, then take it. Channy Tua glared fiercely at the clerk. The latter was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Just as the clerk did not know what to do, Manager Chu walked out. "Young master, this stone has already been taken by someone. This subordinate promised her to keep it for a year. It has already been taken off the shelf. I don't know which insensible clerk got on the wrong shelf." As soon as Manager Chu came, the clerk quickly retreated to the side and threw the hot potato to Manager Chu. Manager Chu saw the stone at a glance. Wasn't this stone the one that Yun Sheng had taken a fancy to? She had already promised Yun Sheng. She did not know which clerk did not have eyes and did not take it away in time. Then, it was so unlucky that it was taken by someone else. Just now, someone had already told Manager Chu what had happened. The young woman in front of him was obviously not a kind person. She wanted to take advantage of the young master's admiration. Who took a fancy to it? Tianyi Tua was a little unhappy when he heard this. It was just a broken stone. When did it become so popular? It's a regular customer. It was not convenient for Manager Chu to say Yun Sheng's identity, so he could only beat around the bush. Chapter 635. Did that person pay the deposit? Tianyi Tua asked impatiently. He had long found Steward Chu an eyesore. The other party seemed to be here to help him, but in private he was sent by his father, who disappeared all year round, to monitor him. Usually this old woman took advantage of her seniority in the shop and kept interfering with him. She was an eyesore, and Tianyi Tua had long wanted to drive her away. If not for the fact that she was Chu Yu's mother, allowing her to stay here and have more chances to see Chu Yu, Tianyi Tua would have ordered someone to leave. No. Yun Sheng only had tens of thousands of gold coins with her. She still needed to buy some basic medicinal herbs, so Steward Chu did not take her deposit. At that time, Steward Chu did not expect that there would be a second customer who would take a fancy to this stone so quickly. Then that's it. Without a deposit, it's just empty talk. This stone is given to Miss Chen. Tianyi Tua ordered someone to wrap the stone up. Eldest young master, if the residence knows about this, I'm afraid it won't be peaceful. Steward Chu was also a man of his word. Since he had promised Yun Sheng, he would definitely do it. The person in the residence that Steward Chu was talking about was Tianyi Tuo's eldest young mistress. This eldest young mistress was famous for being fierce. Previously, because of the eldest young master's affairs outside, she had caused a lot of trouble. Tianyi Tuo's heart quivered at Steward Chu's silent reminder. He thought again. If the beauty beside him got the stone and cut off all ties with him, wouldn't he be at a loss? But if he promised the beauty and did not keep his promise, wouldn't he lose face? Steward Chu, how has Sister Yu been recently? I've been talking about going to the arena to see her. Tianyi Tua asked indifferently. Hearing his daughter's name, Steward Chu's originally firm tone immediately softened. Steward Chu was secretly angry. Tianyi Tua was really worse than a pig or a dog. Chu Yu was his daughter. The mother and daughter had always depended on each other in the Tianyi City Lord's residence. Chu Yu was born with good looks. When she was 13 or 14 years old, Tianyi Tua, who had already married, had already set his eyes on Chu Yu. He took advantage of eldest young mistress and Steward Chu's inattention to seduce Chu Yu many times with words and actions. However, Chu Yu sternly reprimanded him. He still didn't give up. Once, he actually used the excuse of being drunk to sneak into Chu Yu's room. Fortunately, Steward Chu happened to be sleeping in Chu Yu's room that night, so his daughter managed to avoid a calamity. From then on, in order to break away from the eldest young master's entanglement, Steward Chu had no choice but to send his daughter, Chu Yu, to the Skywing Arena. Although the second young master was not a kind person, he was not fond of women. Compared to the first young master, at least he did not have to worry about his daughter being taken advantage of. Seeing Steward Chu admit defeat, Heavenly Wing Tower was even more pleased with himself. He immediately ordered people to wrap up the stone. The stone was quickly wrapped up and delivered to him. When Chen Lianer saw that she had obtained the stone without any effort, she was secretly delighted. Just as she was about to take it, she was stopped by Skywing Tower's hand. The other party didn't forget to pinch her delicate and smooth hands. Chen Lianer felt disgusted, but on the surface she did not reveal too much displeasure. Chen Lianer had also underestimated Skywing Tower. He was not one of those brainless lechers that Dong Huanglinger had met in Zhou State. A stone worth 1 million, regardless of whether it was a stone or not, was still the treasure of the treasure boat. Skywing Tower was also not some spendthrift. With swan meat in front of him, how could he sit and watch her fly away? Miss Chen, we hit it off at first sight. Why don't we find a place to sit down and have a good chat? As for this stone, you don't have to worry. I will give it to you sooner or later. Skywing Tower put the stone into his storage ring and pulled Chen Lianer out of the treasure boat. Chen Lianer's face was full of reluctance, but for the sake of that stone she could only accompany Skywing Tower. Steward Chu watched them walk out and shook his head. Early the next morning, Elder Hellion of the Continental Magic Elite Camp sat in the inn. In the past week, he suppressed his intense worry and did not care about the situation of the dozen or so magicians he had brought. On the other hand, Elder Yu of the Continental Warrior Elite Camp was very leisurely all day long. He would either sit in the inn, order a few pots of good wine and a few good dishes, and sit for an entire day. Or he would sit in the treasure boat of Skywing City and look at the most precious treasures of the continent. These days it was the standard mode of travel. On the other hand, Elder Hellion was not so calm. Early in the morning, when Elder Hellion was about to go downstairs to eat breakfast, he saw Elder Yu and a magician of the Continental Warrior Elite Camp sitting together. Elder Hellion was about to ignore them and turn his head to leave. Who knew that when Elder Yu saw Elder Hellion, he would take a big stride forward and pull him back. "Hey Elder Hellion, what a coincidence. Sit down and have a meal together? Don't you want to know the situation of your dozen or so students?" Elder Hellion's face was originally full of disgust, but when he heard that there was news of his students, he hesitated. Because of this hesitation, he was dragged to a seat by Elder Yu. The magician sitting at the table was the captain of the group that Elder Hellion had brought out this time. He was in charge of collecting information on the magicians of the Continental Warrior Elite Camp in the past 10 days or so. "Greetings, elders." The magician was about 18 or 19 years old and looked very steady in his work. "Elder Yu ordered me to pay attention to the situation of the other magicians of the Continental Warrior Elite Camp. In the past 10 days, all the students have chosen to enter the Skywings arena." There was no doubt about this. Those young geniuses from the Continental Warrior Elite Camp all had one thing in common. They were very talented and were the pillars of their families or countries. Since they had come to Skywing City, they naturally had to go to the arena to see how strong they were. Moreover, they had no money on hand at the moment. The best way to survive was to compete. Elder Hellion looked satisfied, thinking to himself, "Who would dare say that the magicians of the Continental Warrior Elite Camp are spoiled? Oh, then tell me, how are they doing in the arena?" Elder Hellion glanced at Elder Yu. Although he knew that the other party wouldn't be so kind as to collect information on his students, his curiosity still won out. Most of the seniors and juniors have chosen to enter the Earthwings arena. There are many experts there, and it's the most suitable place for training. The magician reported a list of names. The two elders weren't surprised by this. After all, the most suitable arena for the magicians of the Continental Warrior Elite Camp was the Earthwings arena. This was something that the elders of the two elite camps had tacitly agreed to after participating in the Skywing City's training. The previous few times that Elder Hellion had led the team, he had also directly led the students into the Earthwings arena. Chapter 636. Whether it was a mage or a warrior, the best way to grow was to compete with opponents of equal strength. This was also the teaching model that the elite warrior and mage camps of the continent most approved of. However, two mages from the elite mage camp have joined the Yellow Wings division. The warrior hesitated. "Haha, that's nothing. In a team there are always some people who are weaker. The Yellow Wings division is actually not bad." Elder Yu chuckled and looked mischievously at Elder Hellion. Elder Hellion's face twitched. The Yellow Wings division was publicly recognized as the worst of the four major divisions in the Heaven's Wings arena. The division there was a mix of good and bad people. In the early years, many fugitives, assassins and third-rate characters who couldn't survive on the continent had all mingled in that training ground. That kind of place was pretty good for training some hunters. But for the genius-level students of the continent's elite mage camp, it was a piece of cake. In the past, Elder Hellion simply couldn't be bothered to bring people to the Yellow Wings division to observe. Elder Hellion wasn't surprised to learn that someone had gone to the Yellow Wings division. After all, he treated all the students equally this time. Yun Xing, Gufeng, and the others accompanying the team were weaker in magic to begin with. In layman's terms, they were the team's doctor and mage. Elder Hellion couldn't imagine how Yun Sheng and the others had passed these few days. Even if they had gone to the Yellow Wings division, they wouldn't have had much of an advantage. But in the end, there were students under him who didn't want to make progress, and went to the Yellow Wings division to fish in troubled waters. With Elder Yu's sarcasm, Elder Huyen's old face was a little embarrassed. Those students were originally my substitute students this time, and their cultivation was a little weaker than the other students. One of them was a light mage. Elder Huyen's face was red as he hurriedly explained. "Oh, you mean that disciple of the Light Shi? Haha, that mage went to the Earth's Wings division, but the battle situation. Elder, you also knew Gufeng. The continent's elite camp wasn't like other places on the continent. In this place, it was normal for even warriors to receive treatment from mages. Teacher Guangxi had cooperated with Elder Yu before, so Elder Yu was also aware of the new light magic student he had accepted this year. That Gufeng fellow actually recklessly ran to the Earth Wing arena? That kid actually went to participate in the competition? He was a light magician who didn't even know how to use offensive magic. How could he go to the arena? Wouldn't that be courting death? Elder Hellion was also frightened by this news. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. Elder Hellion's plan was for a light magician like Gufeng to find a job as a healer in the arena. He would definitely be in high demand. What Elder Hellion did not know was that the Hidden Night Pavilion was so powerful in the arena that it was impossible for Gufeng to treat someone without permission. No, Elder Hellion thought. He had to find that kid Gufeng. If he was careless and lost his life in the arena, how would he explain it to Teacher Guangxi and the other elders? Gufeng is also someone who has broken the record in the Earthwing arena. In the past 8 or 9 days he competed in 15 matches. He also worked very hard, but he lost all 15 matches, Elder Yu said unhurriedly. Lost all 15 matches? The corner of Elder Hellion's mouth twitched. If there was a hole in the ground under his feet, he would definitely jump in without hesitation. However, Elder Hellion did not care too much about Gufeng's victory or defeat. We still have Feng Tian. With Feng Tian's strength, he will definitely be able to set a record in the arena. Elder Hellion remembered that he still had a trump card, Feng Tian. Feng Tian was aiming for the Fighting King in the Earthwing division. Elder Hellion dared to bet with Elder Yu because his biggest trump card was Feng Tian. He did not tell anyone that Feng Tian's strength was already that of a sky sorcerer. With his strength, it was only a matter of time before he broke through. Based on this point alone, Elder Hellion had full confidence in defeating the warrior elite camp. Elder Hellion, junior brother Feng Tian, is indeed very outstanding. He has already won 11 matches in a row in just over 20 days. The warrior from the elite warrior camp of the mainland echoed. Elder Hellion immediately regained his confidence. 11 matches. For a newcomer, this was an amazing result. If this continued, Feng Tian would win 50 matches within a year and obtain the title of Grappling King in the Earthwings competition zone. It was almost certain. However, the warrior changed the topic. Our mainland's elite warrior camp has also set a record. Junior brother Yi has already won 12 matches in 20 days. 12 matches? Elder Hellion's smile froze. He had almost forgotten that the warrior elite camp also had their own trump card. Yi Baiming, known as the most outstanding genius of the warrior elite camp in the past 100 years, was also on the verge of breaking through to the martial sage realm. He had also participated in the Earth Wing Division's competition. Elder Hellion's heart skipped a beat when he saw the proud expression on Elder Yu's face. Speaking of which, he did not know Yi Baiming very well. However, Yi Baiming was the only direct disciple that the great elder of the warrior elite camp, Guiyu, had accepted in the past 10 years. The other disciples were all disciples in name. Direct disciples were disciples who inherited the mantle. From this, it could be seen that Yi Baiming's talent was astonishing. The great elder of the warrior elite camp was famous for his high standards. How could the foundation of the disciple he had chosen be bad? Just this point alone proved how outstanding Yi Baiming's talent was. Yi Baiming's strength was close to that of a martial sage, while Feng Tian's strength was that of a sky sorcerer. In terms of the martial and sorcerer realms, their cultivations should be about the same. However, it would be hard to say if they were to really compete. Sorcerers had all kinds of unique spells, while warriors also had blood frenzy and unique battle techniques. Elder Hellion, if Feng Tian and Yi Baiming were to meet, who do you think would win? Elder Yu asked intentionally. That's hard to say. Moreover, the two of them might not meet. Elder Hellion was no longer in the mood to ask about the other students' competition. Although he spoke vaguely, he knew very well how big the Earthwing division was and how many top contestants there were. These two people were both monstrous-level contestants. Both of them were aiming for the title of Fighting King in the division. They would definitely meet. When that time came, as an elder he would definitely be there to watch the battle. After Elder Hellion received this news, he only wanted to find Feng Tian as soon as possible and reminded him to be careful. He did not have the mood to stay any longer and went straight to his room to think of a way to contact Feng Tian. Sob, I accidentally fell asleep while writing. I've been out for 3 days and haven't had enough sleep. I'll update the second chapter at noon. Chapter 637. Seeing Elder Helion walk away with a head full of worries, the pride on Elder Yu's face became even more apparent. He was certain that Yi Baiming and Feng Tian would meet sooner or later. As for victory, he had absolute confidence in Yi Baiming, the great Elder's sole disciple. That martial artist looked at Elder Yu in bewilderment. That's right, Elder. Actually, I forgot to mention just now. You asked me to keep an eye on the situation in the Skywings arena. In the past few days, several major events have happened in the arena. Apart from being concerned about his own students, Elder Yu was also very concerned about the situation in the Skywings arena. This was because everyone knew that the Skywings arena was the pinnacle arena for warriors, magicians and summoners on the continent. Here, contestants who obtained the title of King of Combat would become influential figures on the continent in the future. The elite camp of the continent also paid close attention to these influential figures. Oh, could it be that another dark horse has appeared? Is it in the Earthwings or Skywings division? In Elder Yu's mind, people like Feng Tian and Yi Baiming were absolute dark horses. However, even if they didn't rise up in the Skywings arena, they would rise up on the continent sooner or later. It was just a matter of time. Of course, the only people who could catch Elder Yu's attention were those from those two divisions. The dark horses this time are from the Yellow Wings and Profound Wings divisions. The Yellow Wings division has a team called Flame Emperor. That warrior had only just received this news. What kind of experts could there be in the Yellow Wings division? Elder Yu pursed his lips. If he remembered correctly, the Yellow Wings division restricted contestants to the level of martial sage. Even saint magicians and martial grandmasters were few and far between. In Elder Yu's eyes, the competition in the Yellow Wings division was like child's play. He didn't even bother to let his own students participate in the Yellow Wings division's competition. Think about it, what was there to see in a competition between a martial grandmaster and a saint magician? It was just some mid-level battle techniques and spells. To a martial emperor like Elder Yu, that level of battle techniques and spells was like slow motion. There aren't any experts. It's just that the battle style of the duo is very special. It's a pair of female magicians and one of them can use elven healing magic. This was also the reason why the reporting warrior noticed the Flame Emperor duo. It was said that this duo had only been together for a few days. At first, their results were average and they even lost a few matches. However, about 5 days ago the Yen Emperor duo started winning. In about 5 days he had already won 5 matches. Elven magic? Are they from the Immortal Keeper Nation? Elven magic was very rare. Compared to light magicians, elven magicians were even rarer. Even the continent's magic elite camp did not have one in all these years. This was because elven mages must have elven blood. The elves of the Immortal Keeper Nation were especially xenophobic. Their mages almost never appeared on the continent. That shouldn't be the case. However, their battle tactics are very special. One attacks while the other heals and supports. That's why they're like fish in water on the Yellow Wing battlefield. The reporting martial artist sighed. Actually, as a battle team, martial artists like to team up with a healing-type magician. This way, when they went out on missions, their chances of winning would be much higher, and their casualty rate would also be much lower. One attacks while the other supports. This kind of combination can at most win against some mid to low-level contestants. In the later stages like the monthly tournament, this kind of combination won't be able to win. After all, how strong can a single person be? Elder Yu's combat experience far surpassed these fledgling students of the elite camp. In a team battle, unless one side's strength was heaven-defying, the elven magician team would ultimately lose. Healing-type magicians all had one thing in common. They were not proficient in offensive magic. Or it could be said that their magic souls were not suitable for learning offensive magic. Of course, there were some magicians on the continent who could learn defensive and offensive magic at the same time. However, those magicians were definitely not inferior to Yi Baiming and Feng Tian. Moreover, they were definitely famous in the continent when they were young. For example, Xia Wenshu from the Temple of Magic was one of them. Whether or not this elven magician was from the Immortal Keeper Nation, the fact that she was still competing in the Yellow Wings division proved that her magical talent was very ordinary. Therefore, Elder Yu was certain that this Flame Emperor combination, which had the momentum right now, would definitely not be able to last until the monthly tournament. What a pity. If only that elven magician of the other side could be used by us, Elder Yu said regretfully. What kind of eye-catching thing has happened in the Black Wings division? The Black Wings division was the Magical Beast division. This division had always been the most low-key, but the casualties were also the most disastrous. This was because magical beasts were not humans. In places like the arena, the blood and gore would drive magical beasts into a frenzy. In the Black Wings division of the Skywings arena, magical beasts generally appeared at the 9th level and below. Just yesterday in the Black Wings division, a magical beast killed 2 patrolling referees in the middle of a competition in progress and escaped. Now, everyone in the Skywings arena is encircling and suppressing that magical beast. Because magical beasts were participating in the Black Wings arena, compared to other divisions, there would be an extra referee. And the extra referee would definitely be a summoner. You're saying that the patrolling referees and the summoner were killed? That summoner is from the Zao state? Most of the summoners on the continent were from the Zao state, and the Skywings arena had a habit of borrowing summoners from the Zao state all year round. Yes, and it's a summoner. I heard that the Zao state is furious and will send someone over in the next few days. The Zao state was not to be trifled with, and a summoner at the level of a summoner was not ordinary. This doesn't sound normal. The strength of a Zao state summoner, especially a wizard beast master, should be completely enough to control a 9th level magical beast? Elder Yu was very surprised when he heard this news. This was much more shocking than the news of the elven magician earlier. In fact, this news had already become the hottest topic in Skywings City. That magical beast's whereabouts were still unknown. The Black Wings division and the Earthly Wings division were close to each other, and the division where that magical beast was just happened to be right next to the division where that warrior had competed that day. The warrior who had reported this just so happened to witness the magical beast's escape. That magical beast broke through in the arena and became a beast king. That summoner's magical beast wasn't a match for a beast king. This disciple and a few of our junior brothers and sisters nearby all saw it with our own eyes. That day's situation was still very dangerous. That magical beast was an Earth-type magical beast, and its attack power was very shocking. After it broke through to the Beast King level, it comprehended a magical beast inheritance. It was an Earth-type arcane magic called the Throbbing Pulse of the Earth. More than half of the Black Wings division was destroyed in an instant. Chapter 638. A Beast King level magical beast. Is this news true? Elder Yu's chopsticks fell to the ground when he heard the news. It's absolutely true. The disciples all saw it with their own eyes. The Skywings arena immediately sent out many mages to attack, but that Earth-type magical beast's defense was amazing. It broke through the layers of magic attacks and escaped, and its whereabouts are unknown. The situation at the time was very complicated. Those contestants who had not yet broken through to Martial Saint or Sky Mage felt a violent tremor as if the sky and earth were falling apart. Immediately after, there was a terrible roar, and an ugly magical beast appeared in the sky. That magical beast still had magic chains on its body. It shook its newly grown wings and fought its way out of the countless spells. The tragic situation was unforgettable. Skywings City is so big. Even if that magical beast escaped the city, it definitely couldn't escape the territory of Skywings City, Elder Yu lamented. Skywings City looked like it was only the size of a city, but its surroundings were densely covered with the territory of the Skywings City Lord. As long as the Skywings City Lord wanted to capture that magical beast, even a Beast King would not be able to escape. A Beast King level magical beast. It was no wonder that even the Zao state was alarmed this time. On the one hand, the Zao state had lost face because of the death of the summoner, and they had to regain their dignity. On the other hand, a Beast King level magical beast had not appeared on the continent for more than 100 years. At present, all the Beast King level magical beasts on the continent already had masters. Most of them belonged to those monsters on the level of Emperor Zao, such as the Pope in Red or the Lord of Grand Imperial City. A Beast King level magical beast with no one living in it, and one that had comprehended the beast inheritance and profound magic at the king level, its value could be said to be immeasurable. It was likely that not only the Skywings arena, but also the Zao state would not let this matter rest. But this time, Elder Yu's prediction was wrong again. For some reason, although the arena had sent out a large number of people, the Skywings City Lord did not appear. That magical Beast King that had escaped did not appear for the next few months. But that didn't stop the Zao state's people from showing up. This time, the Zao state had sent a summoner over. The arrival of the summoner was also a great opportunity for Yun Sheng. No matter what, we have to pay close attention to this news. If this magical beast really does end up in the hands of the Zao state, I'm afraid it will affect the search for the divine artifact in the future. Elder Yu frowned. The innate talent of Earth-type magical beasts was not only their amazing defense, but also their ability to hunt for treasures, especially the Demon Beast King. If it fell into the hands of the Zao state, it would be even more difficult to find the 8 barren divine artifacts in the future. However, this time around, Elder, you guessed wrong. Even though the Skywing Arena had dispatched a large number of people to chase after the fleeing magical beast, they still hadn't found any trace of that fleeing magical beast. This matter had also become the hottest topic of discussion among people during their leisure time. Right now, only 2 days had passed since the start of the monthly competition between Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger. 2 days later, Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger arrived at the Skywing Arena. The treatment of the monthly competition was much better than the daily competition. There were a total of 6 teams participating in the monthly competition, and they had to go through 3 rounds of competition to determine the top 3 of the monthly competition. They would receive 1, 2, and 3 times the points respectively. However, only the top 3 of the monthly competition would be in first place. Only the champion of all 12 monthly competitions would be able to enter the annual competition. Flame Emperor was participating in the monthly competition in July. With Chu Yu's help, Yunxing and Dong Huanglinger were able to obtain the information of the other contestants in the monthly competition 3 days before the competition. This information detailed the strength of the other teams, as well as the magic and battle techniques they were good at. There were a total of 6 teams participating in the monthly competition. If Flame Emperor wanted to meet Qiu Qingqing's Tortoise Blade, they needed more than just luck but also strength. Flame Emperor went to the 9th competition zone first. Coincidentally, the individual competition in the morning had ended, and a group of contestants walked out of the lounge. After staying in the Yellow Wings competition zone for a long time, the older contestants gradually accepted the 2 of them. Congratulations, Flame Emperor, I heard that you guys made it to the monthly competition. Do your best and become the champion of the monthly competition. You can also win some face for our 9th competition zone. It's a pity that the ticket price for this monthly competition is too high. We can't afford the ticket and can't go and cheer for you guys. Other than Flame Emperor and Twin Dragons who volunteered to compete in the 9th competition zone, most of the contestants who competed in the 9th competition zone were either pushed aside or suppressed. These people, including Kong Fei and Lu Qingqing, were already displeased with the first competition zone. We appreciate everyone's kind intentions, we will do our best to compete, Flame Emperor replied passionately. Oh right, I have always had a question. You have competed so many times in a row, don't you need to meditate? Also, Flame uses elven magic, so the consumption of magic should be very high. A contestant who was more familiar with Flame Emperor asked. In order to enter the monthly competition sooner, the Flame Emperor team was spinning like a top. 4 mages, after using magic, they needed to meditate to recover their magic power. This was especially true for mages below Sky Mages. Because they hadn't comprehended the 4 major magic mysteries, they needed to meditate for a longer time. Especially when they were competing against opponents of similar strength, the consumption of magic power was even higher. Generally speaking, most of the mage contestants in the Yellow Wings competition zone would rest for a day and compete for a day. This also caused many people to miss the opportunity to participate in the monthly competition. After all, to participate in the monthly competition, one had to accumulate a total of 30 consecutive victories within a month. There was another way to quickly recover magic power, and that was to use high-grade meditation water to recover magic power. However, due to the existence of the Hidden Night Pavilion, the price of a bottle of high-grade meditation water was as high as 100 gold coins for mages who weren't willing to cooperate with the Hidden Night Pavilion. It was obvious that the mages could not afford such a price. Most people knew that the Flame Emperor team had offended the person in charge of the competition zone, Yellow Knight Emissary, on their first day. Therefore, no one thought that the Flame Emperor team would buy potions from the Hidden Night Pavilion. However, everyone also saw that the Flame Emperor team competed every day, and almost didn't miss a single match. Moreover, they sometimes participated in multiple matches in a day, including single matches and double matches, but they didn't seem to be overwhelmed. This kind of desperation made many male warriors and mages blush with shame. They didn't seem to be in a situation where their magic power was depleted. No, we have meditation water. Flame Emperor took out a bottle of meditation water and threw a bottle to the mage who was closer to them. Chapter 639. The magician had just finished the competition and consumed more than half of his magic power. His body was weak and he urgently needed to meditate. The magician looked at the bottle of meditation water. There was no sign of the hidden night pavilion on it. He was suspicious but still drank the bottle of meditation water. After drinking, he didn't forget to wipe his mouth and release a spell. Amazing! He recovered all of his magic power. The magician was shocked when he tried it. He just came out of the arena a quarter of an hour ago. It was impossible for him to recover his magic power. The other veteran players were also shocked when they saw this scene. Hidden Night Pavilion is willing to sell medicine to you? Among the veteran players, many of them had a bad relationship with the Hidden Night Pavilion. The Hidden Night Pavilion put these people on the blacklist. If they want to buy medicine, the price is at least 3 times higher. Even if they have money, they can't buy medicine. It's not like all the pharmacists on the continent are dead. Why can't they get the medicine from the Dark Night Pavilion? This is the meditation water of the Little Xiantong. Its effect is not worse than the Dark Night Pavilion's. The Emperor disdainfully said. Little Xiantong? There are medicinal pills and potions of the Little Xiantong here? Among the veteran players of the Yellow Wings division, many of them came from the Zhou state. Once upon a time, the most famous medical hall in the continent was the Imperial Medicine Pavilion, and the Magic Treatment Hall was the temple. But no one knew when it started. It seems that the Little Xiantong began to rise since the rise of the A-ranked hunting corps. The rise of the Little Xiantong formed a prairie fire. From the Zhou state, it began to expand to other places in the continent. At first, it was the hunters, then it was the civilians. Because of the model of selling medicine and medicinal pills, the price of medicine was relatively low. Whether it was nobles or civilians, they liked to buy the medicine of the Little Xiantong. If the medicine in hand was really from the Little Xiantong, then the quality was naturally impeccable. But where did you get the medicine of the Little Xiantong? The Hidden Night Pavilion almost monopolized the medicinal pills of the entire city. Refining and selling, how did this medicine come about? Did the Little Xiantong set up a medical hall in the Skywing city? These players were all very smart. Although they saw the effect of the medicine, they still had some doubts. Yin had long expected that they would ask this question. My friend. It was said that the current young master of the Everlasting Chamber of Commerce was preparing to develop a business in Skywing City. In the future, the Everlasting Chamber of Commerce's airships would return to Skywing City twice a month. The Little Xiantong and the Everlasting Chamber of Commerce have already established a cooperation. Every time the Everlasting Chamber of Commerce's airship arrives, they will deliver a batch of Little Xiantong's medicines. Yun Sheng had only thought of looking for the Everlasting Chamber of Commerce after learning that Chu Yu wanted to expand the number 9 competition zone. Through the Everlasting Chamber of Commerce's transportation and supply of materials, Chu Yujia was able to obtain the materials for her expansion at a 30% discount. The Everlasting Chamber of Commerce could also provide a group of skilled craftsmen to help with the construction. Yun Sheng had already written a letter to Zhou Qingxuan. If nothing unexpected happened, the Everlasting Chamber of Commerce's ships would arrive at Skywing City in about half a month. Who didn't know the name of the Everlasting Chamber of Commerce? Skywing City was independent from the world, and the biggest problem here was the transportation of resources. Even an existence like the elite camp of the continent would have a headache when it came to transporting empty ships back and forth. But the Everlasting Chamber of Commerce was different. They were rich and overbearing, and their businesses were spread all over the continent. For the Everlasting Chamber of Commerce, the Skywing City was an undeveloped virgin land. When Yun Sheng thought of completely opposing the Hidden Night Pavilion, she carefully analyzed the situation. If she wanted the Hidden Night Pavilion to fall, besides breaking their control over the contestants during the competition, the root of the problem was to cut off their supply of medicinal materials. Hearing Yun Sheng's words, the contestants boiled up. If that's really the case, we will all go and buy them. Everyone please calm down. This matter will take some time to complete. When the time comes, we will definitely inform everyone. Flame appeased the group of excited contestants. What's so lively about? Chiyu walked over. Unlike the day competition, the monthly competition zone was held at night. Chuyu didn't need to act as a referee, so she could watch the competition together. Earlier, she had asked Flame Emperor to come to the number 9 competition zone to provide them with some information. Who would have thought that as soon as she came out, she would see Flame Emperor, surrounded by a group of contestants, discussing in full swing. It's nothing. Nothing has been set in stone yet. When the matter is settled in a few days, I will have to inform you, Flame smiled. If they wanted to test out the sale of medicinal materials in the number 9 competition zone, they would need Chuyu's help. starting from the day competition zone, then the entire Yellow Wings competition zone, then the Sky Wings Arena, and finally the entire Sky Wings City. Whether it was the Medicine Emperor Pavilion or the Law Temple, whoever provoked her must be uprooted. Bypassing the group of excited contestants, Chuyu handed a few pages to Flame Emperor. That's all I can do to help you. I believe that the other contestants have similar information on hand. Because the competition wasn't held in her own competition zone, Chuyu could only be a spectator. This monthly competition wasn't just a simple competition between contestants. At the same time, it was also a competition between the day competition zones. Regarding the monthly competition being designated as a competition zone, the referees of the other zones also had some opinions. However, no one dared to go against Tianidong's wishes. Therefore, the only thing left was to compete between the contestants of the other zones. She also heard that Lu Qingqing's group had already spread the word that July's monthly competition would be won by Willow Blade. Flame Emperor immediately looked up the information of the monthly competition opponents and began to analyze. The monthly competition wasn't like the day competition. After all, it represented the strongest mystical beast in the entire Yellow Wings competition zone. The 6 teams participating in the monthly competition were Flame Emperor, Tortoise Blade, Twin Dragons, Tu Meng, Raging Inferno, and Divine Shield. Among them, Flame Emperor and Twin Dragons were newcomers. The remaining 4 teams all had the experience of participating in the monthly tournament. Why is there a number behind the names of the 6 teams? Flame noticed that when the names of the 6 teams were listed, there were numbers from 1 to 8. Flame Emperor was followed by a 7. That's your odds. Cough cough, the outside world isn't very optimistic about your chances of winning. Chuyu coughed a few times, but don't worry, that's because they don't know your strength. Flame Emperor was the most unpopular dark horse among all the contestants. However, that was only limited to the day competition zone. After entering the monthly competition, every team was an expert. The amount of money in the gambling house also increased accordingly. Flame Emperor was the most popular in the day competition zone because Flame was an elf magician. However, after entering the monthly competition, this identity became their restriction. This point coincided with Elder Huyen's evaluation of the dark horse, Flame Emperor. Flame Emperor couldn't win in the monthly competition. Chapter 640. Elf mages, especially water elven mages, are mostly good at healing. However, when it comes to attacking, they are somewhat lacking. Flame Emperor is equivalent to having only one person capable of attacking. This way, in the monthly tournament where experts are as numerous as clouds, he would be at a disadvantage. Therefore, Flame Emperor's market wasn't that optimistic. Flame Emperor and Flame Emperor were both silent. Worried that the 2 of them would think too much, Chuyu urged the 2 of them to go to the first competition zone earlier to get used to it. At the same time, they could also observe the strength of the other contestants. In the monthly tournament of the Yellow Wings competition zone, 2 dark horses, Flame Emperor and Double Dragon, as well as the powerful Willow Blade, appeared. It is said that the strength of these few teams is close to that of the Earth Wings competition zone. By only spending the fee of the Yellow Wings competition zone, one could watch the exciting matches of the Earth Wings competition zone. Because of this, the monthly tournament this time was unprecedentedly popular. Because of this, the monthly tournament in August was also known as the once-in-a-decade exciting monthly tournament. Because of this, the first competition zone specially expanded the venue and added 1,000 plus temporary seats. The number of spectators for the monthly tournament could reach an unprecedented 3,000 people. That Kong Fei's methods were also not bad. He must have been envious of the income of the 9th competition zone and whispered some pillow talk to the second young master. After this monthly tournament, the first competition zone will definitely earn a lot of money. Chuyu informed Flame Emperor that in this competition, there is another new team called Double Dragon that directly entered the monthly tournament. Most of the contestants for the monthly tournament were old faces. Even Lu Qingqing was entering the monthly tournament for the second time. That afternoon, Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger arrived at the first competition zone. Because the identities of the 2 of them were confidential, Yun Sheng didn't even inform Gufeng and Qi. Similarly, the monthly tournament also had a contestant resting area. However, compared to the daily tournament contestants' resting area, the monthly tournament contestants' resting area was much more luxurious. Magic lamps of various colors flashed, and chairs covered in thick animal skins were placed beside the chairs. Fine wine and food were placed on the side for the contestants to enjoy freely. The monthly tournament contestants were all outstanding existences in the Yellow Wings competition zone. The monthly tournament was also able to attract a lot of guests and rich people who came to Sky Wing City for sightseeing. Therefore, the treatment for the contestants in the arena was also much better. Flame Emperor walked into a resting area that was similar to a modern small private room. The other 5 groups of monthly contestants who were going to participate in the competition were already waiting there. Flame Emperor immediately saw Lu Qingqing, who was occupying a corner by herself. This was the first time Yin had met Lu Qingqing. Last time, Yin was only focused on saving the Emperor, and didn't have time to see Lu Qingqing clearly. Lu Qingqing, as described by Dong Huangling earlier, had an enchanting appearance. She had long hair that was like a waterfall and a pair of blue eyes that were like the sea. Her entire body looked as if it had no bones as she leaned against the soft couch. There was also a strangely dressed man standing to the side. The man wasn't tall and he didn't have a single hair on his head. His neck and limbs were short, but his shoulders were broad. He looked like a tortoise. That person must be Lu Qingqing's partner, Tortoise Blade. The 2 members of the Willow Blade team were the most popular team for this month's competition. The odds for the 2 of them were only 1. In comparison, the odds for the Flame Emperor duo were 7. Flame had already found out from Chuyu that in the previous pair's competition, all of the teams that fought against Willow Blade lost miserably without exception. There were even some teams that completely lost their ability to compete because of this. Lu Qingqing was currently playing with her nails that were painted bright red. When she saw the masked Flame Emperor duo enter, she sat up. "Damn girl, you actually dared to appear in front of me." Lu Qingqing's expression was fierce as she fiercely glared at the Emperor. Ever since the start of the competition, she had never suffered a loss. Being taught a lesson by a reckless newbie, Lu Qingqing was already gnashing her teeth in hatred. If it wasn't for the fact that fighting was strictly prohibited in the contestants' resting area, she might have immediately fought with the Emperor. "You are Lu Qingqing?" Flame held down the Emperor and walked to the front of Lu Qingqing. "That's me." "You are that damn girl's partner?" "I advise you to be tactful and admit defeat. Otherwise you will lose more than you gain if you die in the arena." Lu Qingqing glared at Flame. "Lu Qingqing, I will definitely kill those who hurt my good friend. See you in the arena." Flame smiled coldly. Lu Qingqing originally wanted to retort, but she suddenly felt a chill all over her body. Flame's mask was already ferocious. At first glance he looked like a killing god from hell. Coupled with his bone-chilling voice, Lu Qingqing couldn't help but shiver. Flame went to the side and didn't speak anymore. He carefully sized up the contestants around him. "You're overestimating yourself." Lu Qingqing gritted her teeth. The fear she felt just now made her imposing manner lower by a notch. "Qingqing, why bother with them? They might not be able to enter the finals alive," the tortoise-like man beside her said. After hearing this, Lu Qingqing felt relieved. For this August's monthly tournament, Yellow Knight Emissary had put in a lot of effort. In August's monthly tournament, the Hidden Knight Pavilion had monopolized 4 groups. In other words, in today's monthly tournament, only Twin Dragons and Flame Emperor weren't on their side. Yellow Knight Emissary was also very confident in this monthly tournament. The other 3 groups were just there to accompany them. They were responsible for clearing the obstacles in the arena for Willow Blade. The strength of Flame Emperor and Flame Emperor was only so. They might not be able to meet her. Thinking up to here, Lu Qingqing looked at Flame Emperor and smiled sinisterly. Twin Dragons also saw the interaction between Flame Emperor and Willow Blade. The Twin Dragons were Long Shui and Long Tu, who had participated in the competition in the Yellow Wings division as contestants. They were also the other pair of newcomers that Chuyu had told Flame Emperor about. These 2 people were from the Wanlong gambling house and were also Yi Baiming's subordinates. The duo's name was Twin Dragons, which meant Twin Dragons. Compared to Long Hua, who was usually in charge of the Wanlong gambling house, these 2 people were much more low-key. Yun Xing also didn't recognize them. However, their strength was also extraordinary. One of them was a magician and the other was a warrior. They cooperated very well. Yi Baiming had let Long Shui sneak into the competition earlier. Long Shui secretly found out that Yun Xing was participating in the double tournament under the name of Flame Emperor. She followed Long Tu all the way and entered the monthly tournament together. Long Shui, I'll go and report the situation of the groups to Master first. You pay attention to Miss Yun's movements. You must not let Lu Qingqing and her group secretly do something. Long Tu paid attention to Yun Sheng's movements at the side. Chapter 641. Shuang Long already knew that out of the 6 teams in the monthly competition, 4 of them were from the Hidden Night Pavilion. Their goal was to clear the obstacles for Flame Emperor. Yi Baiming originally wanted to come and watch the competition, but he knew that Yun Sheng was very clever. If he came to watch the competition rashly, Yun Sheng would definitely know that he found out that he sent people to participate in the 2-person competition. In order to prevent the wild cat from getting angry, Yi Baiming decided to find out about Yun Sheng's situation remotely. Long Tu was responsible for transmitting the entire competition process to Yi Baiming. Long Tu left the lounge temporarily and found Yi Baiming, who was waiting outside the Yellow Wings competition area. He told Yi Baiming everything, including the few teams that the Hidden Night Pavilion inserted in the monthly competition. Master, are we going to clear all the obstacles for Miss Yun? Long Tu and Long Shui's strength could be considered competent in the Yellow Wings competition area. The people from the Hidden Night Pavilion were no match for them. No need, just follow the normal order, Yi Baiming said casually as he was about to start a competition. Long Tu left for a while and soon returned. Master, are you coming back to watch the competition? Long Shui looked expectant. Although he knew that his master was coming to watch that woman, Long Shui still hoped to see his master appear in the audience. Master won't be coming, but Master has ordered us to get rid of the other 2 groups and leave Lu Qingqing's group behind. Long Tu frowned when he saw that Long Shui couldn't help but reveal a look of admiration when he mentioned Master. Long Tu spent a lot of time with Long Shui, so he knew about Long Shui's admiration for his master. He wanted to remind Long Shui not to be delusional. His master was his master and she would always be a servant. However, Long Shui didn't listen to him at all. Follow the normal order? Long Shui didn't understand. If his master really liked that woman, why didn't he just get rid of Lu Qingqing earlier? Master said that Miss Yun likes to enjoy the process of torturing people. No one else is allowed to touch her enemies. Otherwise Miss Yun will be unhappy. Long Tu was an honest man. He actually didn't understand what enjoying the process of torturing people meant. But his master was so smart that he would do whatever his master told him to do. However, Long Shui's expression changed slightly. She understood what her master meant. Her master had even considered this point. He truly cared about that woman. Even, their thoughts were exactly the same as that woman's. Whether it was Yun Sheng or Yi Baiming, they both liked to do things by themselves, especially when facing their enemies. The number of matches for the first day has been announced. Contestants, please enter the corresponding monthly competition area according to the number of matches. Kong Fei walked out and announced the schedule for the first day's matches. When she saw the schedule, Lu Qingqing nodded with satisfaction. Because she saw that the Flame Emperor team had indeed met another team from the Hidden Night Pavilion, Divine Shield, as she had expected. She also knew the strength of that team. It was absolutely impossible for a team of newcomers to deal with them. Even if Flame Emperor were to win by luck, they would definitely suffer great losses. For the next 2 nights of the monthly competition, they would definitely not have enough magical power to deal with it. Long Shui and Long Tu also saw the number of matches. They had met another team from the Hidden Night Pavilion, Lai Hua. The first match of the Flame Emperor team would be held in the first competition area. The first competition area of the Yellow Wings competition area was the best and largest competition area in the entire competition area. It was right next to the Black Wings competition area. The area of the first competition area occupied 1/7 of the entire Yellow Wings competition area. The income of the competition area also accounted for 1/6 of the entire Yellow Wings competition area's income. This was the first time Flame Emperor was participating in a competition at night. At night the sky was filled with stars. But even the stars in the sky couldn't be compared to someone in the audience. Chrysanthemum seller Kong Fei was wearing a fluorescent mage robe. He looked especially ostentatious. The spectator stands were also filled with spectators. At a glance there were at least a few thousand people. On the east side of the spectator stands, there were a few independent seats at the highest point. At this moment, a young man in his 20s was already sitting in one of the seats. Kong Fei was standing beside the man, serving him tea and water. He was very attentive. The other referees of the day competition area, including Chu Yu, were sitting at the side. Second young master, look, the first competition area is completely filled. There are also many people outside who couldn't buy tickets and couldn't even enter. This is a huge loss for the Yellow Wings competition area. I think, why don't we expand the first competition area this year and add another 1,000 seats? Kong Fei was smiling so widely that his eyes were about to disappear. He glanced at Chuyu from the corner of his eyes. How dare you compete with him? You should take a look at yourself first. Chuyu pretended not to hear him. The expansion of the 9th competition area was much smoother with Yun Sheng's help. In another half a month, it would be completed smoothly. She hid the news of the expansion very well. When the time comes, she would definitely catch Kong Fei off guard. In the remaining 4 months, she would definitely multiply the income of the 9th competition area several times. Seeing that Chuyu was ignoring him, Kong Fei was also asking for a snub. Chuyu, I heard that in the monthly competition this time, the number 9 competition zone did pretty well. 2 groups entered the monthly competition. What do you think? Which of these 2 groups has a better chance of winning the championship? Tianyi Dong lazily glanced at the competition zone. Like Elder Hellion, Tianyi Dong never thought that the Yellow Wings competition area could produce any experts. In previous years he might not even have come to watch the annual competition. But this time, Kong Fei pestered him so much that in order to appease his little lover, he could only lower himself to watch the competition. This subordinate doesn't know. The contestants of the 9th competition area are all newcomers. How can they compare to the veteran contestants? I think that this time, the first competition area's representative has a better chance. Chuyu also knew that Kong Fei and Tianyi Dong were singing the same tune and just wanted to see her make a fool of herself. The first competition area's representative contestant this time was Lu Qingqing's Tortoise Blade. She heard that Kong Fei had been hooting for a long time that the championship this time would belong to none other than Willow Blade. He himself had bet quite a bit of money on Willow Blade. Emotionally, Chuyu was more biased toward Flame Emperor, but out of reason she still bet 10,000 gold coins on each of her 2 groups of contestants. At least you have some eyesight. I'm going to preside over the competition. Kong Fei puffed out his chest, and a magic scepter appeared in his hand. His magic scepter spat out a flame into the sky. The flame soared into the air and turned into a beautiful firework. The first night of the monthly competition officially kicked off. Chapter 642. There was no suspense in the first night's competition, and it quickly ended. What surprised Willow Blade was that the divine shield that they had thought highly of earlier had actually been defeated. It seems that Flame Emperor's strength is higher than we thought. Tortoise Blade and Lu Qingqing also finished their competition. There was no suspense in these matches. After 3 matches, the victors were Flame Emperor, Willow Blade, and Twin Dragon. Congratulations to the 3 teams that advanced. Please rest in the lounge. Next, we invite the second young master to draw the lucky teams for tomorrow night's semi-finals. Kong Fei announced the results of the competition. Since there were 3 teams that advanced, the Heavenly Wing East would draw a team to directly enter the finals. The remaining 2 teams would compete tomorrow night. This drawing of lots was very important. One more match meant that a lot of stamina would be consumed so the team with the bye could conserve their strength. Time ticked by, but the results of the drawing of lots outside still hadn't been announced. The 3 teams that advanced each took a direction in the contestant lounge. The 2 members of Twin Dragon closed their eyes and rested, not talking to anyone. The results are out. Kong Fei walked in and glanced at Flame Emperor. He said very unwillingly, Flame Emperor, you directly advanced. Tomorrow night's competition will be between Willow Blade and Twin Dragon. Kong Fei wanted to see Flame Emperor and Twin Dragon meet. These 2 Dark Horse teams both came from the 9th division, so it couldn't be better for them to kill each other. Unfortunately, the second young master had some screw loose tonight, insisting on drawing lots himself. Flame Emperor had run into some dogs hit luck and got a bye. What dogs hit luck? Fine, I'll let you live one more day. Lu Qingqing let out an ear-piercing laugh. Lu Qingqing's previous match had been won very easily by a subordinate team of the Hidden Night Pavilion, almost without any effort. However, it seemed that Flame Emperor had conserved his strength quite well. Tomorrow night's competition would be between Willow Blade and Twin Dragon. As a result, the Flame Emperor was given a bye for the first round. That's great. We can rest for the night tomorrow and watch the Twin Dragons and Willow Blade fight to the death. The Emperor was very happy. One more battle meant that he would need more time to recover. Now that Twin Dragon and Willow Blade were up against each other, both of them were very strong. Needless to say, tomorrow would be a fierce battle. No matter who won, Flame Emperor would have an easier time in the finals the day after tomorrow. At this moment, Twin Dragon and Willow Blade had also received the results of the draw. Long Shui, Master should be very happy with the results of the draw. We will try our best to exhaust Lu Dao's strength tomorrow night. This way, when Miss Yun competes with Lu Dao the day after tomorrow, the chances of her winning will be very high. Long Tu was an honest person. His master had said earlier that he wanted Miss Yun to personally take revenge, and he also wanted to help remove the obstacles. The current arrangement was undoubtedly the best. Long Shui couldn't laugh anymore. Why did everything have to revolve around that woman? She didn't want that woman to get what she wanted. But her master had already given the order. What else could she do? Your Twin Dragon? After receiving the results of the draw, Willow Blade came over early to greet Twin Dragon. Tomorrow night, please take care of us. Lu Qingqing acted out of character and actually took the initiative to extend her hand and greet Long Shui. Long Shui shook hands with her without batting an eyelid. When the two shook hands, Long Shui's expression changed slightly, but then returned to normal. I have something to do. You go back to the stronghold first. I will be back later. After leaving the arena, Long Shui and Long Tu parted ways. Long Shui turned into a secluded tea house. There was already someone sitting inside. Why did you ask me to come here? Long Shui was alert. When she was in the resting room, Lu Qingqing walked past her and secretly gave her a letter. In the letter, she asked her to come to this tea house to meet her. Long Shui and Lu Qingqing didn't have any friendship, so she didn't know what her intentions were. She should have told her master about this matter, but for some reason Long Shui didn't tell Long Tuesday. I don't lie in front of the real person. I asked you to come here to talk to you about tomorrow's match. Lu Qingqing had seen today's match between Twin Dragon. If it's a match, then we have nothing to talk about. Long Shui turned and left. You are not here for the monthly tournament championship. Lu Qingqing's words made Long Shui stop. What a joke. Everyone who participates in the monthly tournament is here for the championship. We are no exception. Long Shui was still unwilling to admit it. If that's the case, then why did you come? You know that I asked you to come here for tomorrow's match. I want to win, so tomorrow night I must win easily. Lu Qingqing was very smart. She had already seen through Long Shui's strong enmity towards Flame Emperor. Although she didn't know who she was targeting, she was sure that Long Shui didn't want Flame Emperor to win. I can let you win, but I have a condition. I will let you win tomorrow night. The night after tomorrow you must kill Flame on the arena. Long Shui said firmly. You hate Flame? Seeing Long Shui's face filled with jealousy, Lu Qingqing understood. So it was Flame. However, no matter which one it was, Lu Qingqing didn't plan to let any of Flame Emperor survive the night after tomorrow. After tomorrow night, Flame Emperor will definitely die. On the morning of the second day, Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger received an emergency notice from the arena. Last night, Long Shui of Twin Dragon was attacked by an unknown person when he went out. He was injured and couldn't participate in the match. Only 2 people can participate in the Twin Dragon competition. If one of them was injured and had to withdraw, they would automatically forfeit. As a result, the semi-finals that were supposed to be held had to be stopped. However, the tickets for the semi-finals were already sold out. After a discussion, the arena decided to hold the finals one day earlier. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? I dare to guarantee that this matter is related to Lu Qingqing. Dark Knight Pavilion must have bribed Twin Dragon. Dong Huanglinger was somewhat puzzled. Why didn't he get injured earlier or later? Why did he get injured last night? However, suspicions could only be suspicions. After all, there was no evidence to prove that Long Shui's hand was related to Willow Blade. In Yi Baiming's stronghold, Long Shui had a guilty expression on her face. Her arm was wrapped in 3 layers of bandages. Master, Long Shui has disappointed you. Tonight's match. The person who attacked Long Shui last night wasn't found. It wasn't your intention to get injured. You just need to focus on recuperating. Yi Baiming looked at Long Shui's hand thoughtfully. Seeing that her master didn't have any intention to blame her and instead asked about her injury with concern, Long Shui was delighted. However, if you can't even deal with a few small assassins, what's the point of keeping you by my side? Long Hua, from today onwards transfer Long Shui away. I don't need her to serve by my side anymore. Yi Baiming's words made Long Shui feel as if she was in an ice cellar. Chapter 643. Master, please don't send Long Shui away. Long Shui promises that I won't dare to do it again. Long Shui begged pitifully. She hoped that she could stay by her master's side, even if it was just to watch. She had a feeling that her master seemed to know everything that she had done. Long Shui, you must remember, if a dog has disloyalty, then it won't be far from death. Yi Baiming said faintly. Long Shui's heart sank. A dog in her master's heart, she was nothing more than a dog. Master, what about tonight's competition? Long Shui asked with a face full of fear. He didn't expect that Long Shui would be so daring. Go and watch the competition. If there are any strange movements, immediately report to me. Yi Baiming said with a gloomy face. Yellow Wings Competition Zone, August's monthly competition's final match. Flame Emperor versus Willow Blade. Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger had been waiting for this match for a month. Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger had arrived at the arena very early. Before the start of the match, Yun Sheng felt that her eyelids twitched. It was a sense of danger that she had never felt before. Yun Sheng had been in the Blue Dragon continent for so long, but she had never felt this kind of feeling before. What is it? What is it? Yun Sheng? Are you ready? Dong Huanglinger pushed Yun Sheng. Here is a bottle of Spring of Life. Keep it. If you meet with an emergency later on, immediately drink it. Yun Sheng was unable to tell where this sudden sense of danger came from. However, she was certain that it was definitely related to the upcoming match. There was still half an hour before the start of the match. In order to calm down her restless emotions, Yun Sheng took a look at Willow Blade's battle record again. Willow Blade had participated in a total of 30 matches, and without exception they won all of them. In this battle team, Lu Qingqing was good at attacking, while Tortoise Blade was good at attacking and defending. It was a very special battle skill. Once the battle skill was activated, it would form a defensive circle within a quarter of an hour, making it impenetrable. It sounded like it had the same effect as Gu Feng's Heavenly Sphere of Light, but Gu Feng's Heavenly Sphere of Light lasted longer. The competition is about to begin. How are your preparations? Chuyu came to the resting room. She looked a little worried. Everything is normal. Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger nodded. Be careful. Lu Qingqing might use some extreme methods. Also, pay attention to the Tortoise Blade. Chuyu had been feeling anxious since early this morning. There were too many uncertainties in the first competition zone. With Kong Fei as the referee, Chuyu was worried that he would be biased. If you really aren't a match for him, there's no need to fight him head-on. As long as there's life, there's hope. Chuyu had already prepared for the worst. After all, Lu Qingqing and Tortoise Blade were too strong. Big sister Chuyu, you just need to prepare a celebratory feast and wait for our triumphant return. Dong Huanglinger laughed. She didn't realize at all what kind of fierce battle was going to happen next. Flame and Emperor walked into the arena. Tonight there was no moon. The sky was as dark as a pool of ink. However, because of the soul-stirring monthly competition, the Heaven's Wings arena was as bright as day. When the two groups of contestants entered the resting rooms on the left and right sides of the arena, many magic light beams shot out from the two sides of the first competition zone. The light beams landed on the two groups of contestants in the finals of the monthly competition. Flame Emperor only felt that his eyes were bright, and his vision was blurred for a moment. When he saw the situation of the arena clearly again, he heard a burst of voices. The spectator stands that could only accommodate 3,000 people were filled with 4,000 to 5,000 people today. Outside the first competition zone, there were still a large number of spectators who couldn't enter the arena. The entire spectator stands were filled with people. Everyone was shouting crazily. This was all due to the temporary change in the schedule of the competition and the fact that the tickets were sold for 2 days. Willow Blade Battle Team was already standing on the arena. Kong Fei was dressed in fancy clothes. Flame Emperor also walked onto the arena. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first competition zone. Tonight, the finals of the monthly competition in August will begin. Standing beside me is the ever-victorious Willow Blade Battle Team and the rising Flame Emperor Battle Team. Let us look forward to this battle between the old and the new. Willow Blade or Flame Emperor? Who are you all supporting? Flame Emperor, Willow Blade. Tonight, there were a lot of people from the Hidden Night Pavilion present. They formed a camp and shouted crazily for Willow Blade. There weren't a lot of people who supported Flame Emperor. Long too squeezed into a group of people and could barely see the situation on the arena. He didn't even dare to blink his eyes. He was afraid that if he blinked he would miss something. In the spectator stands there were two particularly eye-catching seats. Second young Master Tianidong sat in one of the seats. Yellow Knight Emissary of the Hidden Knight Pavilion sat in the other seat. Second young Master Tianidong and Yellow Knight Emissary both had their own thoughts. What shocked Tianidong was that he didn't think that the Yellow Wings competition zone, which he had never paid attention to, would have such high popularity. Yellow Knight Emissary, on the other hand, was itching to see the results of the competition. A lot of money had poured into this monthly competition. As long as Lu Qingqing won this round, he would earn a considerable profit of tens of millions of gold tonight. Let the competition begin, Kong Fei announced. At the same time, the masked Flame Emperor's lips moved and spat out a word. This word was clearly heard by the Flame Emperor. Go! A wind-type magic instantly swept up the Flame Emperor and helped her charge towards Tortoise Blade and Willow Blade battle team. That wind was used perfectly, sending the Flame Emperor to within half a foot of Tortoise Blade. At this moment, Tortoise Blade hadn't finished chanting. On the other side, a layer of magic elements had just appeared around Tortoise Blade's body. It was at that moment that a lightning dragon erupted like a volcano. It was like an army of thousands of men and horses that suddenly leaped over. The 3,000 to 4,000 spectators only felt their eardrums buzz. Just as they had no time to cover their ears, they smelled a burnt smell. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Several magic soul stones on the Flame Emperor's magic scepter lit up in an instant, and several lightning flashes turned into a raging flood dragon. That flood dragon crossed the air and pierced through Tortoise Blade's chest. Tortoise Blade was a saint-level mage, and the Flame Emperor was also a saint-level mage. He never thought that the Flame Emperor's magic attack would actually choose a close-range attack. In the previous few competitions, without exception, Flame would first launch defense or use water magic to confuse the public, and then the Flame Emperor would start. Unexpectedly. It was just that Tortoise Blade couldn't understand how the Flame Emperor was able to use wind and lightning magic at the same time in such a short period of time. He didn't allow Tortoise Blade to think clearly. Kacha, a certain organ in his chest had been blasted apart. Chapter 644. Immediately after, a rain of blood blossomed on Tortoise Blade's chest like a strange demonic flower. Tortoise Blade's eyeballs gradually turned grayish-white. His vitality left his body bit by bit as the rain of blood spurted out. On the side, Lu Qingqing had yet to recover from her shock. Her opponent was a mage. How could he use a close-range attack that only warriors could use? Even the Emperor had a look of disbelief in her eyes when she had succeeded. Even though Yen had already repeatedly deployed the strategy for tonight's match before the match. That was to kill Tortoise Blade at the start of the match. In the spectator stands, the spectators who had been screaming incessantly stopped in an instant, as if an invisible hand was choking their throats. On the field, only Yen remained calm from start to finish. She had to remain calm because the slightest surprise in the arena meant death. Whether it was in the Heaven's Wings arena or the Boundless Continent, every contestant believed that victory depended on strength. Strength was king. However, Yen did not think so. In a match, especially one where life and death could be decided in an instant, using one's brain was more useful than using one's fists. After analyzing Willow Blade's battle pattern for a few matches, Yen keenly discovered that once Tortoise Blade's defense was activated, there was no suspense in the match. Tortoise Blade's defense was almost invulnerable, but for nearly a minute after his defense was activated, he was practically defenseless. At that time, Lu Qingqing was also accumulating energy to unleash her combat skills. That was the best time to kill Tortoise Blade. Once Tortoise Blade died, Lu Qingqing's defense became her biggest flaw. Tortoise Blade's chanting time was actually not much different from Huang's, who had undergone dark gold training. In terms of chanting, Huang was no match for Tortoise Blade. However, Yen was different. Her chanting time was twice as fast as Tortoise Blade's. Therefore, the moment Kong Fei announced the start of the match on the field, Yen had already finished chanting. She released her first wind-type spell, helping Yen get close to Tortoise Blade in one fell swoop. Thunder Dragon Flash, with its astonishing attack power, succeeded in one hit, just as Yen had expected. Tortoise Blade. Lu Qingqing looked at her companion. Tortoise Blade, who was already dead, crashed to the ground like a collapsing wall, dying on the arena. Yan's attack was very fatal. At this moment, the results of the Dark Gold instructor's training were obvious. He didn't want to waste any extra MP. Yan's attack had hit Tortoise Blade's heart. Tortoise Blade couldn't be more dead. I'm going to kill all of you. Lu Qingqing's eyes were filled with killing intent and rage. At this moment she had already finished channeling her Do Qi. Her originally slender and tall body emitted bursts of popping sounds. Her limbs and hair had already undergone a transformation. Spots and small bumps that looked like suction cups grew on her originally white and smooth arms. Her skin had also turned light blue. Lu Qingqing's arms became softer and softer, constantly lengthening and expanding. Like willow branches being blown by a storm, they cunningly wrapped around the Emperor's neck. After Emperor's attack succeeded, his body rushed forward a few steps according to inertia. He was about to collide with Lu Qingqing's mutated tentacles. Return. A few wisps of wind wrapped around the Emperor's waist. When he was about to approach Lu Qingqing, his body was pulled back. You want to escape? In your dreams? Qiu Qingqing's Do Qi surged. Countless hairs swarmed out, like seaweed dancing on the bottom of the sea, constantly climbing on the arena. In a flash, the hairs had surrounded the entire arena. As a veteran, Qiu Qingqing experienced a brief moment of surprise when her partner was killed in an instant. Her mentality immediately adjusted. Lu Qingqing thought that Emperor had used 2 spells at once. Right now, she must have consumed a lot of MP, and it was impossible for her to cast a 3rd spell. But Qiu Qingqing was wrong again. Boom! Another lightning bolt that was enough to shock the entire arena. It hit one of Lu Qingqing's mutated arms. Lu Qingqing's mutated arms were cut off by the lightning, and it bounced a few times on the arena. You actually have extra MP? I really underestimated you earlier. Lu Qingqing's expression changed. She glanced at the broken arm as if it was nothing at all. Humph, I'm much more powerful than you think. Emperor landed safely on the ground, panting slightly. 1 advanced spell and 1 intermediate spell. Her MP had been consumed by 80 to 90%. However, Emperor was not worried because she still had yen. You think you can win by cutting off one of my arms? Lu Qingqing laughed, her beautiful eyes full of disdain. She was careless today and lost a comrade. But it was fine. She alone was enough for this competition. Glory would only belong to her, Lu Qingqing. Lu Qingqing breathed slowly. A ball of blue light flashed on the arm that was hit by the lightning bolt. This is. There was a disgusting squirming sound on Lu Qingqing's broken arm, and a new arm grew out. Regrowing a broken arm was the unique talent of the Seagull Queen. Haha, I want to see how many more spells you have. Come at me together. Lu Qingqing's eyes had a touch of flirtatious blue. The Do Qi on her body changed. Emperor only felt that the temperature around him had become much colder. Near the arena, the small bumps on Lu Qingqing's mutated tentacles changed and turned into poison sacs. Patu mutated tentacles moved at the same time, attacking Yen and Emperor. There was a touch of surprise in Emperor's eyes. In the previous competition, Lu Qingqing did not have time to shapeshift. But this time, the shape-shifting ability she displayed caught Emperor off guard. The terrifying healing and regenerative ability. Was this the terrifying effect of the Seagull Queen Soul Stone? Countless tentacles rushed towards the Flame Emperor without any blind spots. The small arena was instantly filled with those tentacles. The audience could not even see the situation in the arena clearly. The tentacles of the Seagull Queen were stained with paralyzing poison. Once touched, it would slow down one's movements and paralyze one's body. The audience seemed to have seen the scene of Emperor being torn apart by the tentacles. In the audience stands, Chuyu stood up with a bang. His heart felt like it was going to jump out of his chest. Long Tu was anxious. He hurriedly squeezed out and sent a message to Yi Baiming. But just as the tentacles were about to swallow the 2 of them, Lu Qingqing let out a shrill cry. Fire! It's fire! In the audience, the sharp-eyed people noticed that there was a small flame on the arena. The flame was getting brighter and brighter. It was like a small spark that quickly became a prairie fire. Chapter 645. The death of 1 or 2 contestants was nothing to Skywing East and the Skywing Arena. In the arena there were always people dying every day. Moreover, for Kong Fei, Flame Emperor's death meant that Chuyu had lost her last bargaining chip in the competition. Kong Fei was happy that Lu Qingqing could kill both Flame Emperor and Flame Emperor. Seeing that the second young master didn't say anything, Chuyu couldn't care less. She didn't care about how dangerous it was on the arena and rushed to the front of the stage. However, due to the water blue-colored Do-Chi barrier, Chuyu could only stand below the arena and loudly shout at Yen. Flame, admit defeat. Stop this competition. Chuyu's voice resounded incessantly in Competition Zone 1. Her voice was helpless and sharp. Although they had only known each other for a short month, Chuyu and Flame Emperor had become friends who talked about everything. At first, Chuyu wanted to use Flame Emperor to help her get the position of the person in charge of the Yellow Wings competition zone, but after spending some time together, she fell in love with this pair of female magicians who were 5 or 6 years older than her. Flame Emperor was a very strange combination. Emperor was lively and loyal while Flame Emperor was calm and cautious. Unknowingly, Chuyu had begun to treat them as her younger sisters. The moment she saw Lu Qingqing completely transform, Chuyu knew that something was wrong, but it was too late to stop it. Seeing Flame Emperor being devoured, Flame Emperor, who was like a sister to Flame Emperor, must have lost control. Since Flame Emperor was dead, Flame Emperor had to live. Chuyu's voice sounded very weak in the midst of the boiling clamor and was quickly swallowed up by the audience's frenzied screams. She didn't get any reaction from Flame. In fact, from the moment Flame Emperor was devoured, Flame Emperor seemed to have turned stiff. The audience who had bet on Lu Qingqing's victory. Tear her to shreds. Victory belongs to us. Yellow Knight Emissary also sat in the VIP seats. He hadn't expected the forbidden medicine to have such astonishing effects. He was still worried that the upper echelons of the Hidden Knight Pavilion would find out about the forbidden medicine. But when he thought of the rolling income that Lu Qingqing's victory would bring, he breathed a sigh of relief. The uproar and clamor in the arena didn't stop. But for Flame Emperor in the arena, in her mind and her eyes, there was only one scene. The scene of the Emperor, pushing him away and being swallowed by Lu Qingqing. Hoo. On the arena, under the mask of flame, he was panting heavily. Yendu could no longer hear the surrounding sounds, including Chuyu's shouts. Yan's eyes were pitch black. If someone were to look directly at him, they would discover that a sharp golden light had flashed across Yan's black eyes. Emperor, hold on, Yen muttered to himself. She stared at the fully transformed sea octopus queen. After beast transformation, Lu Qingqing had turned into a super sea beast that was more than 3 meters tall. Her limbs and hair had all turned into dark blue tentacles. Lu Qingqing, who had completely gone berserk, was no longer worthy of being called a person. His hair, hands, and feet had all turned into tentacles. His body had turned into the belly of an octopus. Only his head was exposed. Around him, the blue fighting energy controlled by Lu Qingqing kept drifting and sliding. They were like small knives, cutting through Yan's skin, limbs, tearing at her hair and scratching open wounds on her body. Yan's eyes were red with anger. Drops of blood dripped from the tips of her pitch-black hair. Her skin was white. Blood and snow-like skin complemented each other. She looked sad and beautiful. She clasped her hands together. This kind of aqua-blue fighting energy seemed to be the natural nemesis of hellfire. The hellfire was extinguished little by little. Yen suddenly took a big step forward and rushed towards Lu Qingqing. You're asking for death. Lu Qingqing, who had already swallowed a person, mumbled something in her mouth and spat out a huge bubble with a pu sound. The bubble enveloped Yen. Lu Qingqing sucked hard and swallowed Yen into her body. Little bitch, you're so soft and tender. You taste really good. Lu Qingqing stretched out a tentacle, patted her bulging belly and burped. After swallowing 2 people in one go, Lu Qingqing also felt that the burden on her body was not small. That Yen must have been scared silly. She actually rushed over as if she was seeking death. Lu Qingqing wins. Kong Fei saw that the results of the competition had been decided and flew forward to announce the results. Chuyu's knees went soft and she knelt beside the arena. Tears blurred her eyes. Yen in the end did not listen to her. She actually rushed towards Lu Qingqing as if she was seeking death. Haha, I won. This month's competition I'm. The beast Lu Qingqing waved her tentacles ferociously. Just as she was about to go wild with joy, her soft tentacles suddenly froze. She stiffly lowered her head and looked at her round octopus belly. A cold but unusually clear voice said, "Spit out everything that you ate." Boom, the entire first competition area, as if it was hit by a tornado, suddenly exploded. On the arena, the aqua-blue fighting energy walls were like a fish tank that was smashed by a heavy hammer, shattering into pieces. Standing on the arena, Kong Fei, who was about to announce the results of the competition, felt his vision darken. A terrifying gust of wind sent Kong Fei flying. His head slammed into the bottom of the stage and he fainted. Lu Qingqing only felt that her stomach, tentacles, and head were torn apart by a terrifying force that she had never felt before. The audience in the spectator stands did not even have time to see what happened. The entire competition area fell into a panic. The hurricane that flew out from the arena caused the entire first competition area to fall into a state of panic. The hurricane that seemed like it came from hell was rampaging, like a level 19 typhoon passing through, sweeping everything in its path. Such a situation was just like the last time in the Yellow Wings competition area when the Beast King level magical beast evolved. The destructive power of the magical beast's esoteric magic was just like that. After a full quarter of an hour, when the sound of the wind gradually stopped, the audience, who were holding their heads and squatting on the ground, finally raised their heads, trembling. The magic arrays in the arena were almost all destroyed. In the first competition area, everything that could be seen with the naked eye had been blown away. The arena had disappeared, and the spectator stands had also been uprooted by the hurricane. There were severed limbs and wreckage everywhere, and the most miserable was none other than Lu Qingqing on the arena. The body of the huge sea beast that had completely turned into a beast had already been torn into pieces. The severed head and tentacles had long since disappeared without a trace. She had actually died without an intact corpse, and even her bones could not be seen. Heaven's Wing East jumped down from the spectator stands. His eyebrows twitched and he cursed inwardly, Motherf ****. The first competition area was completely destroyed. Heaven's Wing Arena would have to pay for this loss. This time he had really suffered a terrible loss. Chapter 646. What happened? What happened just now? What was that? What a strong wind. Those spectators who were lucky enough not to be injured by the broken arms and wreckage all buried their heads, not daring to make a sound. Chuyu was also thrown to the ground by that terrifying power. As for Kong Fei, his whereabouts were unknown long ago. Chuyu followed the dust and smoke that had yet to completely disperse and looked towards the arena where the hurricane had been generated. Just now, in that thrilling moment, only Chuyu was closest to the arena. And only she could clearly see that the shockingly powerful hurricane had come from, it came from Lu Qingqing's stomach. As the smoke gradually dispersed, Chuyu's eyes suddenly widened and she covered her mouth in disbelief. Emperor. In the center of the arena that had already been razed to the ground, there were two more people. No, to be exact, there was a person standing there, and that person was supporting another person. Yen was supporting Emperor. Emperor's hand was still tightly clutching an empty bottle. Cough, cough. Emperor raised his head with difficulty, his voice weak. Did we win? We won. There was a trace of sobbing in Yan's voice. Witnessing this scene, the entire arena was dead silent. Yellow Knight Emissary, who was lying on the ground with his head in his hands, pointed at the arena as if he was mute, unable to utter a single word. Lost. Lu Qingqing, who had taken a forbidden medicine and completely transformed into a beast, was actually defeated. Just now, what had happened? A hurricane of that scale must have been caused by an extremely powerful magic tool, which was a powerful spell of high-level magic or above. Hadn't Lu Qingqing already devoured Yen Emperor? How could she have been killed in an instant? This was simply a shocking reversal. Chuyu rubbed her eyes and walked to the side of the dumbstruck Tianyi Dong. Second young master, can you announce the final result of the competition? Although the entire arena had been destroyed. But Lu Qingqing had already been killed by an unknown spell, and Yen Emperor was unharmed. This, of course. In the Yellow Wings division, the first place of the finals of the two-person competition in August is the Yen Emperor combination. Tianyi Dong looked everywhere for Kong Fei, but he couldn't find any trace of him. Tianyi Dong reluctantly announced the result of the competition. As soon as the result of the match was announced, Chuyu dashed towards Flame Emperor like an arrow. The moment he saw Chuyu, Yan's body collapsed without any warning. Chuyu hurriedly took Yen and Huang, and sent them to the VIP resting area. As soon as he was sent into the resting area, Chuyu immediately ordered people to seal off the resting area. She checked Yan's body again and discovered that the magic power in Yan's body had been completely depleted, not even a bit was left. This was probably related to the last spell she had just released. Chuyu had been a referee for many years, and she had observed a few matches between Sky Magicians and above in the Skywings division, but she had never seen anyone use a spell like Flame. Just what kind of magic was that? It was actually able to create such a terrifying hurricane from the body of a peak 9th rank sea beast. It tore Lu Qingqing into pieces, and even her corpse couldn't be found. What a reckless way of fighting. As Chu Yu recalled this, he finally understood why Yen had rushed towards Lu Qingqing as if he was throwing away his life. The body of the sea octopus queen was incomparably tough, and most spells were invulnerable. However, if a powerful spell were to be cast from the body of the sea octopus queen, it would be able to break through the body of a magical beast. However, such a method was truly too dangerous. If he was the slightest bit careless, Chu Yu didn't dare to think about it any further. After tonight's battle, Chu Yu had instantly aged several years. These two naughty girls had really been scared to death. Yen and Huang were the same. They were both fugitives who didn't care about their own lives. Chu Yu sighed as she took off Yun Sheng's mask. Other than her face, Yun Sheng's entire body was covered in injuries. The acid in the sea octopus queen's stomach had burned a large amount of skin. However, this wasn't the most important thing. The current Yen was like an empty shell that had been drained of all energy. She had many fractures all over her body and she was very weak. Chu Yu fed her some medicine, but the unconscious Yun Sheng couldn't swallow it. Chu Yu's heart was burning with anxiety. She didn't have any method to save Yun Sheng. On the other side, Huang's injuries had also been treated. In comparison, the Emperor's injuries were lighter. Her limbs were only corroded by the acid in the sea octopus queen's stomach. However, due to the bottle of Spring of Life that Yen gave her earlier, Huang's life was saved. Furthermore, she woke up very quickly. Where's Yun Sheng? After waking up, the first thing Dong Huanglinger did was to look for Yun Sheng. She is right beside you. However, her situation isn't good. I'm afraid that we can only seek help from Hidden Night Pavilion. Chu Yu tried several precious medicinal herbs, but none of them were effective. Not a single bit of her magical power was left. If the situation was serious, her magical soul would be injured. Chu Yu couldn't think of anyone that could save Yun Sheng. Most likely it could only be that national expert Su from Hidden Night Pavilion. However, after tonight's fierce battle, Hidden Night Pavilion would definitely suffer disastrous losses. Would national expert Su be willing to save her? We can't seek help from Hidden Night Pavilion. Dong Huanglinger wanted to sit up. However, her injuries made it difficult for her to move. Get out of the way. A cold male voice suddenly appeared. Who are you? How did you enter the resting room? Chu Yu was startled. Suddenly, a man appeared in front of her. In order to prevent outsiders from entering, Chu Yu had already set up a magic formation outside. If anyone were to enter, she would definitely know beforehand. However, when this young man arrived, there was no warning at all. This person's strength was definitely very high. However, looking at his age, he didn't seem to be a very powerful expert. Chu Yu took a closer look and saw the appearance of the man clearly. It was a young man that wore a jade-black-colored warrior robe. His appearance was so handsome that it caused Chu Yu's heart to skip a beat. Chu Yu had seen countless people. However, she had never seen a man with such an extraordinary temperament. Phoenix eyes, thin lips, a pair of silver-gray eyes. Just by standing there, he was like a king that had descended upon the world, causing others to feel fear. Yi Baiming cough cough. You are Yun Sheng's fiancé Yi Wangye, right? When Dong Huanglinger saw Yi Baiming, she let out a sigh of relief. Yi Baiming didn't reply. He stared at Yun Sheng and touched her cheek. Yun Sheng's body was ice cold. Yi Baiming's eyebrows couldn't help but twitch. Just now he felt a burst of fear. Long Tu's notification made him hastily end the competition that he was in and rush to the Yellow Wings competition zone. However, who would have thought that what he saw was his two injured subordinates and the messy first competition zone? Yi Baiming relied on his intuition to find Yun Sheng's location. What made him shocked was that no matter what kind of situation she encountered, the little wild cat that would always be alive and kicking was currently lying not far away. Chapter 647. Yun Sheng's Dharma soul had suffered a very serious injury. Yi Baiming only checked for a moment, then cursed in a low voice. Yi Baiming had always known that Yun Sheng's talent in magic was very high. After all, she had half of his Dharma soul. In the world, she was the one and only 5-elemental Dharma soul. After using her new magic to kill a peak of the 9th-rank beast warrior, her body couldn't take it anymore. Yi Baiming didn't hesitate at all. He took out a bottle of something from his storage ring. It's useless, she can't drink it. Chu Yu was just about to remind him. But at the next moment, Chu Yu and Dong Huanglinger suddenly opened their eyes wide. Yi Baiming drank the bottle of medicine, then bent down and pressed his lips against Yun Sheng's lips. Because she was unconscious, Yunsheng's lips were cold and tightly shut. Yi Baiming tried, but he wasn't able to send the medicine in. However, he didn't give up. He used his tongue to gently tease Yunsheng's lips. Perhaps because she felt something, Yunsheng's throat let out a low moan, and her teeth were gently pried open. Yi Baiming patiently fed the medicine in his mouth drop by drop into Yunsheng's mouth, all the way until she drank all of the medicine. After he finished feeding her, he didn't forget to considerately wipe away the residual liquid at the side of Yunsheng's mouth. Yi Baiming did this series of actions quite naturally. Chu Yu and Dong Huanglinger, who were standing at the side and didn't even have a lover, were so pitiful that their faces and ears turned red. They didn't even know where to look. Just now, Yi Baiming's action of feeding the medicine in their eyes was the most intimate action between lovers. Moreover, Yunsheng and Yi Baiming, one was a handsome guy while the other was a beautiful girl. The scene of the two of them together was so pleasing to the eye that it made one's nose bleed. Yi Baiming carried Yunsheng. "Where are you taking her?" Chu Yu was still a little worried. Yi Baiming left without looking back. "Hidden Night Pavilion. Her body has been greatly drained. She needs both a doctor and a magician to treat her." "He's Yunsheng's fiancé?" Chu Yu asked. "He is Yi Baiming from Earthwing's competition zone. He wouldn't harm Yunsheng." Dong Huanglinger was having a headache right now. She didn't know how to tell Qi and Gu Feng that Yunsheng was taken away by Yi Baiming. Especially abandon his feelings for Yunsheng. Earlier on, when Yunsheng brought up the topic of marriage, Dong Huanglinger was very against it. As such, Dong Huanglinger thought that the marriage between Yi Baiming and Yunsheng was arranged by their parents. But today, after seeing Yi Baiming's actions, Dong Huanglinger realized that this person who was usually as cold as ice, when he met Yunsheng, he would become as gentle as a puddle of water. Even a blind person could tell that Yi Baiming was sincere towards Yunsheng. Moreover, his feelings for her were very deep. Just that Yunsheng, that stupid person, didn't know why, but for some reason she just couldn't accept it. "Sai, let's not think too much about it. This kind of relationship is the most troublesome." "Alright, big sister Chu Yu, what happened to that Lu Qingqing?" Linger understood that Yi Baiming wouldn't let anything happen to Yunsheng. Dong Huanglinger rested for a moment and recovered some of her strength. The effect of the water of life was truly amazing. At the instant when she was swallowed by Lu Qingqing, a thought flashed through her mind. Yunsheng said that if she were to encounter danger, she must definitely drink the water of life. Therefore, the only thing she did at that time was to drink the water of life. Thanks to that water, her life was saved. Although her body was fine, she was still knocked out by the sea octopus queen's venom. When she regained consciousness, she remembered that Yunsheng was supporting her. "Lu Qingqing is dead. Linger, do you know what kind of magic Yunsheng used at the last moment?" Chu Yu also didn't know what kind of magic Yunsheng had used. It wasn't just Chu Yu. All the spectators who had witnessed that match on the arena that day. Not a single person recognized what kind of magic Yunsheng had used. The monthly finals had just ended, and Tianidong ordered people to count the losses in the first division. Tianidong had a belly full of anger and had nowhere to vent it. After the competition ended, because Kong Fei was unconscious, Tianidong could only count the losses himself. After counting, Tianidong was about to explode in anger. He originally thought that the first division had suffered heavy losses, but who would have thought that the hurricane that had come out of nowhere would be so tyrannical? The first, second, and even the third division had been affected to varying degrees. The first and second divisions could be said to have been razed to the ground, and the third division was mostly destroyed. Looking at the situation, the entire division would need to be repaired. In this way, the income from these 2 days of competition alone was far from enough to make up for the losses. Not only that, but all the matches in the Yellow Wings division that had originally been held in these 3 divisions also needed to be adjusted. Needless to say, because of that hurricane that had come out of nowhere, many spectators watching tonight's competition were seriously injured. There were also some very troublesome characters among them, and the medical expenses and settlement expenses for these people weren't small. Because he couldn't find out exactly how that hurricane had come about, Tianidong could only admit that he was unlucky and shoulder all the losses. Damned Hidden Night Pavilion, damned forbidden medicine. This young master will definitely settle this account with you. Tianidong put all the blame on the Hidden Night Pavilion and Lu Qingqing. A servant came forward and reported, "Second young master, there are people outside asking for an audience." "What time is it? Don't see them. Can't you see that this young master is busy?" Tianidong was impatient. "Second young master, it's people from the Zhao state." From the looks of it, they seemed to be the Zhao state's main summoners. The servant braced himself. Main summoners? I'm afraid they're here for the Black Wings division. I'll go see the guests. When Tianidong heard that it was people from the Zhao state, he thought about it and immediately decided to see them. The matter had to be explained from the disappearance of the magical beast half a month ago. After the king-level magical beast escaped, Tianidong ordered many people in the arena to go out and search for it, but there had been no clues. That king-level magical beast seemed to have a particularly outstanding concealment ability, and even the summoners sent by the Zhao state earlier didn't find any clues. In desperation, the Zhao state agreed to send more people. It was just that Tianidong hadn't expected that the Zhao state would actually send a cardinal, and 2 of them at that. The composition of the Zhao state was 1 pope, 3 8 god summoners and 13 main summoners. Tianidong hurriedly straightened his clothes, then led a group of high-ranking people from the Zhao state out of the Yellow Wings division and went to the outside of the Skywing arena to welcome the 2 distinguished guests from the Zhao state. Tianidong still attached enough importance to the Zhao state. After all, nearly a month had passed since the magical beast escaped, and there was still no news. His elder brother, Tianidong, had laughed at him for this matter. Seeing that his father, the Lord of Skywing City, was about to return from his travels, Tianidong was also a little anxious. Outside the Skywing arena, 2 summoners of different stature were waiting outside. Both of them were sitting on flying magical beasts. Both of them were wearing the summoner's robes. Under the night wind, their loose robes fluttered in the wind. Chapter 648. One of them was a man in his 50s, and the other was wearing a mask, so her appearance could not be seen clearly. It could only be seen from her appearance and the way she walked that she was a woman. That female summoner had just raised her head and was sizing up the Skywing arena. In the darkness of the night, the arena that would cause the entire continent to tremble was less noisy and more peaceful than it was during the day. In the night, the entire arena was like a dormant beast of the night. The female summoner looked at the 2 words Skywings, and felt an inexplicable feeling in her heart. Welcome, welcome. I've kept you 2 waiting. Tianidong saw the masked female summoner and frowned. This woman's mask was very similar to the mask of the Flame Emperor group. They were both ferocious masks that looked like harpies. Were all women wearing those things these days? Tianidong was very unhappy and easily associated it with that competition that had caused him to suffer heavy losses. I'm very grateful that the 2 bishops have come in person. Tianidong secretly probed the cultivation of the 2 bishops, but who would have thought that he could not see through their specific cultivation at a glance? He could not help but be shocked. His father had once said that the Zhao state was the most unfathomable existence on the continent, especially that masked bishop whose age and appearance were unknown. Tianidong felt a chill all over his body as soon as he got close to her. Second young master is too courteous. His Holiness the Pope and the Skywing City Lord are close friends. His Holiness had originally wanted to come in person after such a major incident in the Skywings arena, but due to his busy schedule, he specially entrusted me and the 9th bishop to come in person, the man in his 50s said politely. The middle-aged summoner began to exchange pleasantries, and after his explanation, Tianidong knew that the middle-aged man in front of him was the 4th bishop of the Zhao state, and the masked female bishop was the 9th bishop. Both of them had come on the orders of the Emperor Zhao in red to search for clues about a king-level magical beast. This time, the appearance of a king-level magical beast in Skywing City was still very important to the Zhao state. Are you done talking? Let's get down to business. The 4th bishop and Tianidong were still exchanging pleasantries, but the 9th bishop on the side had already retracted his gaze. He suddenly interrupted the conversation between Tianidong and the 3rd bishop. Tianidong furrowed his brows very unhappily. This woman was a little too unreasonable. The 4th bishop, on the other hand, had a good temper and said, "Second young noble, there's no need to be so formal. The 9th bishop has always been like this. She has no ill intentions. It's getting late. Why don't we go to the Xian competition zone to take a look? I heard that the arena has been maintaining the same situation as the day after the match." Seeing the appearance of the 4th bishop, Tianidong understood that although the 9th bishop was ranked behind the 4th bishop, his status seemed to be higher than the 4th bishop's. He led the 2 of them to the profound wings area. The mysterious wings division was different from the other 3 divisions. Due to the special characteristics of the magical beasts, the competition grounds needed to be very vast. Therefore, the Mysterious Wings division was not divided into 9 divisions. Instead, it was directly connected to one division. It was an extra-large competition area the size of a modern open-air stadium. The entire Profound Wings competition zone was bordered by the Earth Wings competition zone and the Yellow Wings competition zone. When the 2 red-robed bishops walked into the Mysterious Wings competition zone, they only saw a frightening scene. The entire Mysterious Wings competition zone, which used to be flat, had actually disappeared. It was like a large ruin with clods of earth everywhere, and the spectator stands all around had been razed to the ground. This was the power of one of the profound truths of nature, the throbbing pulse of the earth. That magical beast had just broken through not long ago. If it had been a magical beast that had broken through for a long time, the throbbing pulse of the earth would have caused more than just the complete destruction of the venue. It's the throbbing pulse of the earth. That magical beast is a true king-level magical beast. Just as the 4th bishop and Channy Dong were talking, the 9th bishop's body silently streaked past. Her body technique was indescribably wonderful, like a shooting star. By the time people realized it, she had already turned into a flash of light. What a powerful body technique. Channy Dong couldn't help but put away his previous thoughts of looking down on her. The 9th bishop moved a few times and she was already standing in an area. She stood in that area, the tip of her nose twitching slightly. That magical beast was standing here at the time? Channy Dong's expression was strange. He immediately called for his subordinates and confirmed the 9th bishop's doubts. The 9th bishop crouched down and searched the ground. She suddenly frowned. This magical beast that broke through was pregnant with a beast fetus at the time? Even though a few months had passed, the 9th bishop still managed to find some clues. Wasn't this 9th bishop a little too sharp? Channy Dong asked again and found that the situation on that day was just as the 9th bishop had guessed. You actually let a female beast that was on the verge of breaking through participate in the competition? The 9th bishop's originally hoarse voice became even more unpleasant. Channy Dong had never been questioned in such a tone before, and he immediately retorted, "It's just a beast." Before the word bastard could come out of his mouth, a slap came over with a "pa" sound. Even though Channy Dong had the body of a saint of war, he only felt his cheeks go numb after being slapped, and there was immediately a fishy taste in his mouth. He spat out a mouthful of saliva, and there was actually a broken tooth mixed in. "You little bitch." Channy Dong was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices, and his fighting aura immediately exploded. "Second young master. 9th bishop. Please calm down, both of you." Seeing this, the 4th bishop hurriedly inserted herself between the 2 of them, restraining the 2 who were at loggerheads. "Second young master, the 9th bishop has a violent temperament, but she is also the most outstanding summoner in the Zhao state. Only she can help you find that missing magical beast." The 4th bishop was so anxious that she was sweating profusely, and she pulled back Channy Dong, who was about to use force. "9th bishop, don't forget the Emperor Zhao's instructions before we set off. When we're outside, I have the final say." The 4th bishop was also the only person in the Zhao state who could speak a few words with the 9th bishop, which was why Emperor Zhao had sent her this time. Sure enough, as soon as she heard the words Emperor Zhao, the 9th bishop, who was originally irritable and uneasy, immediately calmed down. Channy Dong had been slapped in the face and he felt very sullen. But now he had a favor to ask, and this crazy woman in front of him was the only clue that could help him find the magical beast, so he could only accept it. Seeing that both of them had calmed down, the 4th bishop breathed a sigh of relief. He asked the 9th bishop tentatively, "Do you have any clues about that escaped magical beast?" "The magical beast cub in the womb." The 9th bishop was a woman of few words. When Channy Dong heard this, he was angry with this woman, but also very surprised. It was just a glance, and this woman actually knew the magical beast had just given birth to a magical beast cub. Chapter 649. The outside world only knew that the magical beast had broken through in the arena, but very few people knew that the magical beast had been sent to the arena shortly after giving birth. It had given birth to a magical beast cub less than a month old. After the magical beast had escaped, the magical beast cub had been raised in the arena. Channy Dong brought the 2 bishops to the breeding shed in the Dark Wings arena. "Come, bring out that little beast that was just born." Channy Dong ordered someone to bring out that little magical beast. A breeder with unkempt hair and a dirty face came over, holding a thin and weak magical beast in his arms. Due to the lack of milk, the little magical beast was very thin. Ninth Bishop, can we find the missing magical beast if we keep this little guy? The fourth bishop asked. The ninth bishop's eyes fell on the little magical beast that was so thin and weak that it could die at any time, and a kind of anger suddenly arose in her heart. It was as if this little magical beast had evoked some very unpleasant memory in her. She had just entered the Heaven's Wings arena when she had a very strange feeling. This feeling was as if she was very familiar with this place. But at the same time she loathed everything here. Although it had been a long time, the Yellow Wings Division's perennial magical beast competitions had made every tile and every wall here taste the blood of magical beasts. The smell of magical beast blood still floated in the air. Countless magical beasts were buried in this piece of land under her feet. Since that's the case, lock this little guy up and wait for its beast mother to come to our door. Tianidong waved his hand, and that filthy breeder with an indistinct face quietly glanced at the ninth bishop. When he saw the unusually beautiful silver eyes of the ninth bishop, a strange look appeared in the eyes of the breeder, whose age and appearance were unclear. The hand holding the magical beast cub trembled imperceptibly. But in the end, he still suppressed his emotions and left with the little magical beast in his arms. Since the two bishops are already here and can't find the missing magical beast for a while, why don't this young master play host and entertain the two of you on behalf of my father? The two of you can also watch the various competitions in the Skywings arena and take a tour around Skywing City. Tianidong still had to rely on the help of the two bishops from the Zhao state, so he was very attentive. But hospitality was one thing, and Tianidong still hated that female summoner who had taught him a lesson. The fourth bishop readily agreed, but the ninth bishop regained her previous coldness. She said nothing and walked out with the fourth bishop. The two left the Skywings arena, accompanied by Tianidong. The moon hung high in the night sky. It was quiet in the damaged Darkwings division. At this time, a figure quietly entered the breeding shed. The figure shuttled back and forth for a while. There were a large number of magic cages in the breeding shed of the Mysterious Wings competition zone. Magical beasts of different grades and some newborn magical beasts were imprisoned in them. After searching for a while, the figure stood in front of one of the cages. In the cage, the magical beast cub from before was curled up into a ball. The cage was opened, and a pair of beautiful hands reached in and took the little beast out. The ninth bishop had a complicated expression under her mask. She stroked the little beast, her movements very gentle. But suddenly, her fingers tightened around the little beast's neck. Sensing the danger, the little beast began to tremble. Keeping you will only be a burden. Her fingers tightened, and the little beast's struggles became smaller and smaller. If you kill it, you will never be able to see what it looks like when it grows up. The ninth bishop's beautiful eyes narrowed, and she noticed that there was another person standing in the corner. It was that dirty breeder. The ninth bishop had not noticed him standing there. Shocked, the ninth bishop closed in on the breeder in the next moment. She raised her hand and grabbed at the breeder's throat. Sharp nails flashed on her 5 fingers, and she wanted to take his life with a claw. The man didn't dodge or dodge. A cynical smile appeared on his filthy face that couldn't be seen clearly. The handsome smile that suddenly appeared on that weathered face was so dazzling. The ninth bishop had the illusion that her eyes were burned. Like a flash of lightning, it tore apart the quiet night. A vague but clear smile appeared in the ninth bishop's mind. Who was he? Why did she have such a familiar feeling? In a moment, the ninth bishop's hand did not fall. She slowly withdrew her hand. It is too weak, it must die. If it doesn't die, its mother will die because of it one day. The ninth bishop did not know why she had to explain to a person she had only met twice. She did not want this person to misunderstand her as a cold-blooded and heartless person. Even though she had always been so cold-blooded and heartless in the Zhao state. In general, parents are always willing to sacrifice for their children. The man's words fell clearly into the ninth bishop's ears. Her heart suddenly tightened. The ninth bishop staggered a few steps away. As a parent, who the hell are you? The ninth bishop's hoarse voice rose a few octaves. Yun? Before the breeder could finish, the ninth bishop suddenly covered her ears, as if she was afraid to hear that person's name. She panicked and disappeared in an instant. Jiuxing, you really don't remember me? The breeder, who was also Yun Songhai in disguise, sighed. He recognized Hu Jiuxing at first glance. After Yun Songhai and his daughter Hu Jiuxing left without saying goodbye, Yun Songhai searched everywhere for information about the Zhao state's bishop. Although the Zhao state kept a low profile, Yun Songhai did not spend too much effort to find out about Hu Jiuxing. Because in the past 10 years the Zhao state had only one new bishop, and that was the 9th bishop. The rumors about this bishop were very mysterious. Her name was unknown, her age was unknown, and even her country of origin was unknown. The only thing that was known was that she was a woman, and her summoning ability was very strong. Preliminary estimates suggested that she could at least compete with a king-tier magical beast. This was also why the Zhao state had sent the 9th bishop to deal with the Skywings arena this time. Yun Songhai had not originally planned to come to Skywing City. He had planned to sneak into Penglai. But when he first entered Penglai he learned a piece of news. There was a king-tier magical beast riot in Skywing City. The whole continent was shocked, and it was said that the Zhao state had already sent people there. Yun Songhai immediately thought that Emperor Zhao could not go to Skywing City in person. Then in the Zhao state, there was only one person who had the ability to tame a king-tier magical beast, the 9th bishop. After Yun Songhai thought about it, he immediately changed his mind and went to Skywing City to infiltrate the Yellow Wings area. It just so happened that the Yellow Wings area of the Skywings arena was missing a breeder, so Yun Songhai changed his name, hid his face and infiltrated. Chapter 650. After waiting for half a month, Hu Jiuxing finally appeared. However, Hu Jiuxing did not recognize him. Not only that, but Hu Jiuxing seemed to be very repulsed by him. She did not even want to hear his name. Yun Songhai could not help but suspect that something had happened to Hu Jiuxing. However, he could not immediately tell Hu Jiuxing. He had to find the reason why Hu Jiuxing had forgotten everything. Yun Songhai sighed inwardly. He looked at the little beast in the magic cage and said softly, "Jiuxing, do you know that our daughter was once like the little beast in this cage? But now she has grown into a peerless talent that makes you and me sigh." In Skywing City, Yi Baiming carried Yun Sheng and went to the stronghold of the Hidden Night Pavilion alone. At this time, the 4 night emissaries were all gathered in one place in the Hidden Night Pavilion. "Emissary Huang, how do you explain today's matter?" The highest commander of the Hidden Night Pavilion was a national expert with the surname Su. This person had excellent medical skills and was famous in the medical world. At this time he was so angry that smoke almost came out of his head. Today Lu Qingqing's competition had shaken the entire Skywing City. The Hidden Night Pavilion had suffered heavy losses. Not only that, but the rumors of the Hidden Night Pavilion using forbidden medicine had also spread like wildfire. The second young master, Tian Dong, had already sent someone to question and warn the Hidden Night Pavilion that if they dared to act recklessly in the arena in the future, they would be banned from practicing medicine in the arena. Emissary Huang knelt on the ground. He no longer had his usual arrogant appearance. His face was covered in cold sweat. All his hopes were completely shattered after witnessing Lu Qingqing being torn to pieces and disappearing without a trace. Using forbidden drugs wasn't a big deal, but using forbidden drugs and losing the competition was fatal to the Hidden Night Pavilion. I also don't know why Lu Qingqing would have such a forbidden medicine. Emissary Huang was completely defeated this time. He originally thought that Lu Qingqing's victory was in the bag, but who knew that at the last moment, there was actually a miraculous reversal. However, that yen is almost done for. Looking at her current state, she definitely won't be able to participate in any other competitions in the future. Huang Yesher wiped off his cold sweat. This time he had won and lost millions of gold coins. The entire income of the Yellow Wings competition zone this year was completely gone. To the Pavilion of Hidden Night, this was without a doubt a heavy loss. It was equivalent to losing 1/5 of their annual income. Su Dagwa's anger was not small. He still had to eliminate the impact of this forbidden drug crisis. "Great Master of the Nation, there's someone called Yi Baiming outside who wants to see you." He also brought the monthly champion of the Yellow Wings division Yen along with him. "Great national expert Su, it's that woman who caused us to lose so badly." Yellow Knight Emissary was feeling apprehensive, not knowing what kind of punishment he would receive. Yi Baiming? He was the player with the best results in the Earth Wings competition zone. Emissary Qinyi? Since Su Dagwa was overseeing Skywing City, his considerations would definitely be more thorough than Emissary Huang's. He had some impression of Yi Baiming. About a few months ago, Emissary Qinyi from the Earth Wings competition zone had recruited Yi Baiming. He was invincible and could be said to be invincible in the Earth Wings competition zone. Great national expert Su could not afford to offend such a person. "Let him in." Su Dagwa gestured for someone to bring Yi Baiming in. Yi Baiming walked in under the gazes of all the emissaries. He was still carrying Yen in his arms. He was dressed in a black robe. His silver eyes were like the sharpest blade. When he swept his gaze across everyone present, everyone felt their scalps go numb. It was as if a knife had slid across their throats. This was a cold and bloodthirsty man. Although he now belonged to the Pavilion of Hidden Night, no one had enslaved him. Great national expert Su sucked in a breath of cold air. Save her. Yi Baiming's thin lips moved, only spitting out 2 words. His tone was as if he was not here to seek medical treatment, but to give an order. When Emissary Huang heard that tone and saw Yen, he was immediately furious. Who are you? How dare you speak like that in the Pavilion of Hidden Night? The woman in your arms should have died long ago. Bam! There were doctors and warriors present, but no one could see Yi Baiming's movements clearly. A strong wind flashed past, and Emissary Huang flew out like a cannonball, crashing to the ground. Even the word die was stuck in his throat. He was already dead. Everyone went forward to take a look. All the bones in Emissary Huang's body had disappeared. He was like a puddle of mud that had been soaked in water. Great national expert Su was shocked. Emissary Huang's bones had been completely shattered by a special technique. Everyone felt a chill run up from the soles of their feet. No one rushed forward. Save her or all of you die. Yi Baiming did not move at all. He stood on the spot and even his hair was not messed up. A red light flashed in his eyes, but it quickly returned to gray. In Yun Sheng's current situation, just using ancient medical skills or magic to treat her was not enough. She had to be treated with the most brilliant ancient medical skills and light magic. In Skywing City, only the Pavilion of Hidden Night had such treatment conditions. Yi Baiming did not look sideways. He only stared at great national expert Su. He knew very well that the person in charge here was great national expert Su. Su de Guosho was trembling with fear under his gaze. He braced himself and walked forward to check on Yen. There was not a single bit of magic element left in Yan's body. This shocked great national expert Su. Under such circumstances, an ordinary mage would have died long ago, but she had stubbornly survived. Although great national expert Su was very unhappy about Emissary Huang's death, he did not dare to do anything to Yi Baiming. In any case, Emissary Huang had made a big mistake this time. The title of emissary had to be taken away. However, how could he appease the god of death in front of him? Great national expert Su was able to keep watch in Skywing City for so many years without collapsing. He naturally had his own abilities. He was very meticulous. While he was diagnosing Yen, he took the opportunity to size up Yi Baiming. How is she? Although the man's voice was still cold when he mentioned her, his voice was obviously much softer. Looking at his expression when he looked at the woman in his arms, great national expert Su immediately understood. At the same time, he was even more curious about Yan's identity. What was the origin of this woman? She could make a man who seemed to be possessed by the god of death change into a different person. Su de Guosho's gaze fell on the mask of Yen. Yi Baiming's eyebrows were obviously raised. His voice was colder and his words were full of possessiveness. If the little wild cat was not injured, he would not allow other men to touch her. Chapter 651. I can save her, but I have a condition. You have to help me defeat someone. After weighing the pros and cons, Su Dagua already had an idea. Who? In order to save Yun Sheng's life, Yi Baiming would do anything. The Yellow Wings competition was already a foregone conclusion and could not be reversed. As the person in charge of Skywing City, the most important thing for him was to think of a way to make up for the losses. Recently, other than Yi Baiming, another newcomer had appeared in the Earthly Wings competition zone. His strength seemed to be about the same as Yi Baiming's. However, he was different from Yi Baiming. That person was a tough bone that could not be swayed by force or persuasion. Moreover, this person was extremely ruthless and would definitely heavily injure his opponents every time. Nearly 10 experts from the Hidden Night Pavilion had already been killed by this person. Su Dagua thought that only Yi Baiming had a chance of defeating this person. Feng Tian, a newcomer from the Earthly Wings competition zone. As long as you defeat Feng Tian, the Hidden Night Pavilion will naturally save your friend. Sure. I'll come and pick her up tomorrow. Yi Baiming turned and left without another word. After taking a few steps, Yi Baiming warned, "Don't look at what you shouldn't look at. Otherwise you'll end up like him." Su Dagwa's hands trembled. The thought of peeking at Yen's true face immediately vanished. After an unknown period of time, Yun Xing woke up. When she woke up, she felt her body go soft. She moved and felt something soft and hard under her head. When she turned around, she realized that she was resting on a muscular arm. Her line of sight happened to meet Yi Baiming's pair of good-looking fox eyes. Yun Xing was shocked. She reflexively wanted to sit up, but she did not have any strength. Just as she sat up, she felt dizzy. As a doctor, Yun Xing knew very well that this was a sign of exhaustion. "Night Fox, why are you here?" Yun Xing stared blankly. Her black eyes darted around as she tried to recall what had happened earlier. "Before you ask that question, shouldn't you take a look at whose territory this is?" Yi Baiming turned sideways and stared at Yun Xing evilly. He had been looking at the wild cat like this for nearly a day and a night. Yi Baiming's voice sounded a little different today. He sounded a little tired. Yun Xing looked down suspiciously. He found himself lying on an unfamiliar bed. The bed was exquisite and luxurious. It was obvious that this was not the inn she was staying in. She then looked at Yi Baiming. He looked a little different today. He was dressed in a white shirt with his collar open, revealing his sexy collarbone. This scene was too erotic, and Yun Xing suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. No matter how he looked at it, it looked like a set of pajamas on Night Fox. She looked at herself and saw that she had changed into a new set of clothes. "Yi Baiming. You dare to take off my clothes." Yun Xing was embarrassed and angry. She punched Yi Baiming in the chest. Unlike usual, Yi Baiming did not reveal an evil smile. He frowned. "What are you doing? Master is injured." Behind her, an interrogating female voice suddenly interrupted Yun Xing's actions. A beautiful woman walked in with a basin of water in her hands. When she saw Yun Xing's actions, she quickly went forward and questioned Yun Xing angrily. Yun Xing looked at Yi Baiming's white shirt again. There was indeed a trace of red seeping through. Rewinding her memories, she was clearly in the arena, and then she defeated the beast Lu Qingqing. Looking at the woman at the side, Yun Xing felt that she looked familiar. She suddenly recalled. Wasn't this woman one of the members of the Double Dragon team from the monthly competition? Yi Baiming Double Dragon. How smart was Yun Xing? She immediately understood what had happened. It turned out that Yi Baiming had already planted someone by her side during the competition. But why would Yi Baiming suddenly get injured? In her impression, other than when she was 6 years old, the Yi Baiming that Yun Xing knew was like a god of war. No matter what the situation was, even if he met someone like Duguxiu, he had never been injured. He was actually injured? Little wild cat, don't misunderstand. Long Shui was the one who changed your clothes. This prince wanted to personally change your clothes for you, but he was powerless. Yi Baiming's foxy eyes slightly narrowed as he swept a suggestive glance over Yun Xing's body. His gaze was like a teasing feather. Wherever it landed, Yun Xing would feel a strange numbness all over her body. Yi Baiming's eyes darkened. Yun Xing, who was almost 14 years old, was completely different from the little wild cat when she was 6 years old. Due to practicing martial arts and the Jade Marrow technique, Yun Xing's puberty was earlier than other girls. Her skin was also much better than other girls. Su Dagua of the Hidden Night Pavilion had indeed done his best. The small wounds on Yun Xing's body were all healed without leaving a trace of a scar. Unlike other girls' snow-white skin, Yun Xing's skin was almost devoid of any pores. There was a trace of redness in the whiteness and it looked very delicate. When Yi Baiming carried her back, the beauty in his arms emitted a faint fragrance. This fragrance was something that no other woman had. When Long Shui was helping her change her clothes, she, who was also a woman, was also endlessly envious of Yun Xing's good skin. Yi Baiming's unbridled gaze made Yun Xing feel a strange feeling all over her body. Her breathing also instantly became chaotic. There was an unprecedented ambiguous atmosphere between the two of them that was constantly spreading. The two of them had forgotten that Long Shui was still present. Long Shui, who was at the side, couldn't help but cough a few times when he saw this. Only then did he break the ambiguous atmosphere between the two of them. "Miss Yun, you can't be unreasonable to Master. In order to save you, His Highness agreed to the Hidden Night Pavilion's conditions and fought with Feng Tian. He almost lost his life." Long Shui stared at Yun Xing with jealousy and hatred. Fought with Feng Tian? The injuries on his body were caused by Feng Tian? As proud as he was, he actually went to beg others? What exactly happened when she was unconscious? Yun Xing vaguely remembered what happened in the arena. In order to kill Lu Qingqing and save Donghuang Lingya, she pretended to be swallowed by the Seaborn Queen. In the Seaborn Queen's stomach, she released the dark gale that she had just comprehended. The gale's power was astonishing. When it tore the Seaborn Queen's body apart, it also almost exhausted all of Yun Sheng's magic power. Yun Sheng still felt a lingering fear from the exhaustion of her magic power. It was just that she didn't have time to think about the consequences at that time. The only people who could save her in that state were the great masters of the Hidden Night Pavilion and the magicians. Yun Sheng had thousands of words in her heart that she wanted to say, but when the words reached her mouth they became, "Night Fox, I really underestimated you. Just one Feng Tian actually made you like this?" Yun Sheng really wanted to bite her tongue. Why did the words change the moment they came out of her mouth? You have a baby wants a hot scene, either or **. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.